We were going to do the breakout session in all the little classrooms, but apparently that's not publicly enjoyed. So we are not going to do that. We're going to do a straight, let's talk about it. So those of you guys who are online, please use the chat. We're not turning it off. So of course, you know the spiel. Be nice, be kind. But we are just, if you've got a question online, just simply let us know and we'll address it. Chrissy will tell us what's going on. As always, first and foremost, we thank the Water District. This is phenomenal. They are outstanding. The facility is fabulous. And we so appreciate it, truly so appreciate it. Yeah, we got a little mic guy running around making sure everything works. We always want to thank the board members because they do this, and we greatly appreciate it. President is Christy Bybee, Vice President Trish Gibson, Catherine Nelson, the marvelous Sean Ellis. Directors are Sue Hare, Nicole Marley, Dalton Hooks, Trudy Johnson, Kevin Campshire, Miguel Delgado, Glenda Lee, Jackson, Dr. Keok, and Brady Davis. Always, we ask you to go to the website. If you've got questions, be a member. You can go into the members only side. That's lovely. www.nvndpc.com. I'm a little distracted because I'm watching all the folks doing all their stuff. Today, this is kind of a complicated system for you guys who are not administrators or adjusters. It'll be fascinating because you'll realize where we come up with all the crazy numbers. And to do that, I'd like to introduce the Corbell panel. I greatly appreciate Corbell for allowing us to do this. It's really, you know, especially on the last day of the month, really appreciate that. Because I was working late last night working for this. We have Nicole Marley, Michael Barkley, and Rosalind Jackson. Good morning. I think between them they've been, I think between them they've been in for like 300-400 years. I mean, I think, you know, they probably beat me. I mean, Rosalind's been here since she was 10, Michael was 15, and you know, Miss Nicole, she's a legacy, so, you know, I think she was 11 maybe. So she's been here that long time. Again, though, if you guys have questions, it is tough. If you don't understand, stop us, because if you don't understand, somebody else might too. So stop us and say, wait, say that again, explain it again, and let us go through it again. Okay, with all that? No. Oh, wait. Chrissy's got something to say. You want this? Okay, I did it. I did it. What? I did that. I did that. I did that. Oh. I didn't do that. Oh. I didn't do that. Cursor on the screen. Oh, go ahead. Trish Gibson. Would you like to come talk to us for a minute? No. Oh. Okay. Rumor has it. No worries. I just thought that song too. I did think you in my head.
There's a rumor?
Which one?
No, the rumor has it.
Regarding the sponsorship, is that what you
Yeah.
Oh, come on,
I don't know what
Trish.
you're going to talk about, but you have everything.
Yeah,
And you have, don't you have Bassie now?
I do.
Oh,
I really just wanted to tell you guys about some of the new doctors that I'm representing and remind you of some of the other ones. Dr. Bassowitz is new to me as of January of this year, and he's really interested in getting back in front of all of you guys for trainings and lunches and things like that. He's been kind of out of pocket since COVID, and so that's why he hired me. To kind of remind you guys that he's out there. And I hear, well, I use him, but you know, he just wants to make sure. He wants to do more transfers of care and actually treat your patients. He's not so interested in IMEs, although he will do them. It's not his favorite part of what he does. And then I have a new doctor, which actually, Dr. Seth Probert, he was working with Dr. Bronstein. He is now transferred over to Weir and Associates Pain Management. And his specialty is dual board certified. He is physiatry, and pain management. So he can do your injections, your EMGs, he will do your PPRs, he will treat your patients and give you work status and do everything all in one-stop shop. I know, we like to use Michoud and we like to use Shabini, but this is that together, both of those together, which makes it easy for you not to have a pain management doctor and a treater. He will treat your patients. And he's with Mira and Associates. Mira is orthopedic spine and semi out of the game of treatment, but doing some IMEs and things like that. And then they have another gentleman that I'm representing the whole group. So Dr. Paul Schwingler is an MD. Dr. Seth is Probert is a DO. And then they have 2 PAs, and they do a group approach. So in case there's any issues, the whole group will staff it and work together. So, and that is the office manager is Loretta Muir, and she will help you with anything that you need as well. She's been a great friend for me. I met her, and 5 minutes later, everything was awesome. So I've been working for them for about a month, and I thought it was a good time to let you know where Dr. Probert landed since he left Dr. Bronstein. And then Dr. Jamie may actually stop by, so if I can get 5 minutes down the road. She's just wanting to make sure you guys understand the whole TBI, PTSD, and the PPD because she's doing all of that. And the neuropsych testing and neuropsych evals, and actually medical treatment, which, for her, physiatry treatment is EMDR and other kinds of therapy, which is, kind of new to us since we've, stepped into that realm in workers' comp. And then I still work with the IMA group part-time with the nurses. I have one Reno nurse, Tammy, which a lot of you will meet Friday at bowling. And then I have 4 Vegas nurses, and one of them is bilingual. So that's kind of new to us, and we're excited to have that to offer you. I currently still work with Dr. James Manning, Dr. Andre Razadin, and Dr. Young. They are my 3 main guys. Dr. Razadin gave me my start. Gosh, I want to say, Christy, if you've been doing it 12 years, I think I've been doing it about 14. So it's a long time ago. We were golfing, and he said, why don't you mark it for me? And here we are, a long time later. So, and I love answering your questions, and I can help you with anything and get you to the doctors if you have a disconnect or something. I get that, oh, I didn't know. I mean, I definitely, it's job security for me to help you get what you need from the doctors that are taking care of your patients. So, and I have Trish Gibson marketing that I do all of that under. I also have Dr. Schneier who goes to Reno to do IMEs and Vegas IMEs, which is pretty much all he wants to do. He does not want to treat. So that's how Basowitz and Schneier work together for me because Schneier is a neurosurgeon, brain and spine, and Dr. Basowitz is orthopedic spine. So they're fine. They don't feel that there's any competition there because they kind of want to do different things, which works out great for me. And if you have any questions, I'm available pretty much 24/7. So email, cell, I don't know if there's any other way. Text, I guess, probably. Thank you. I wasn't quite prepared. And where'd she go?
I'm sorry. How much is that?
You're so much better than that.
No, that was lovely.
Thanks, Trey. I guess not preparing is better.
And it
It's
gave us
better.
lots of
It's better.
ideas. I prepared 2 people I was talking about yesterday that need to go that way. Okay, so now that I think we're cool, we're ready to start this with Calculation Cal.
Yeah, Calculation Cal is ready. Thanks for joining us on the probably most scintillating subject you'll ever find. If you like math, PPDs are for you. If you don't like math, PPDs are for you too, in a different way. This is what we're going to do today. We're going to talk about the PPD benefits. We're going to review some key deadlines. We're going to talk about what information you need to have to calculate a PPD. Then we're going to actually break the benefit down so you can see where the dates fall and how that thing is calculated. And by the end, we're hoping that you will be able to explain to everybody how a PPD is calculated and what it represents, because that's always a challenge. Everybody always calls and says, well, where's my settlement? And that's not what this is, but it's sometimes hard to explain what it really is.
I forgot to ask you, did you get my email from the history of the PPD thing?
Yeah.
Isn't that fascinating?
Yeah. Wow, make my train leave the station. Thanks for that, Ann.
Thanks, Ann.
We're going to look at the forms that you use, the updated forms, the 9A and the 9B, or D9A and D9B. And then we're going to give you a chance to calculate a couple PPDs by hand. And I'll tell you, there is a cheat sheet out there that many of you probably have seen, the cheat calculation. But when we train new adjusters, we always make them do them manually until they show us they know how to do them, and then we let them use the
The only way you know when something's
Because the problem is, and I actually had somebody say one time, they called and said, well, how did you come up with this number? And they said, well, I don't know, I put it in the sheet and this is what it gave me. And that's not quite enough information, so we're gonna,
Understand that, we still have to understand the form.
yeah, you gotta understand it. So we're gonna do that. And then we're gonna talk about PPD calculations, permanent totals, and COLA increases. Doesn't that sound like a fun 3 hours? Come on.
Yay.
Have you had more fun than that? I'm pretty sure.
Get your coffee.
Okay,
He took a drink.
there we go. So some of this is gonna be obvious, especially for those of you who've been in the industry for a while, but just to make sure that we're all on the same page, your PPD benefits, they're designed to compensate an injured worker for any permanent disability that's caused by the industrial injury. Again, the switch is if you're from another state where they do settlements and you do, negotiations, people from there oftentimes come here and say, well, I want to do that here. I've had several injured workers call and be like, well, no, I want this much. No, I want this much. And that's not what this benefit is. Benefit is very closely calculated. It's based on an injured worker's age, wage, and the percent of disability. And then again, in contrast to some states, here in Nevada, the younger you are, the more PPD you will get if everything else is equal. And if you have a higher wage, you'll get a larger PPD if everything else is equal. And if you get a higher percentage of disability, obviously, then you're going to get a higher PPD with everything be equal. But I know that, I think it's California, that the older you are, the more money you get. So you get some people that it gets kind of reversed.
And tell them why. Why do they get more money than you get?
Well, the design on this one is that the person who's younger has to live longer with the disability.
And work with it.
And work with it and have it, sometimes there's pain involved for extended periods of time. And so that's what the benefit is designed to do. What?
What's wrong?
Yeah, go ahead. What's on there is not on my computer. What's on your computer right now?
Same
That,
things on the.
it's the same thing, yeah. We just start talking.
Not on this.
That's because you're on last times. We're not doing wage
I
calculation.
know, I'm on this.
Trish,
Oh, Trish,
can you come say
we had it set up the first time, but that was on the old slideshow.
Yeah, that must be what happened.
Then she set up the new one. Trish, she changed it. I thought you changed it. I know, we did, but it's not changing on here.
Apologize
So
for that.
what they're watching, they're not, it's not changing.
Go to the file.
I
We
see.
need to
Well,
go.
then
Pardon for a minute. We're
Maybe-
taking a timeout.
Maybe you need to stop sharing.
Yeah, stop sharing.
Go to Teams,
I
go
don't
to
know where,
share,
I don't know how to get there.
share from Teams in the
Okay.
window.
Okay, so go
Thank
to
you,
Teams.
Rusty. We didn't know that was happening.
Yeah.
Teams. I don't want to end the event. Oh, here we go. Share.
To teams.
For those of you online, you were, of course, revisiting
Oh, wait.
the average monthly wage calculation
Don't we go to, we
and
just,
wondering why is he talking about PPD calculations when my
is it,
screen,
is
when
it
my
the
screen,
is it the presentation or the printing?
This is
that
not,
one-
this is not the one. This
the
is not the one.
presentation.
Sometimes when I'm having a day.
But that's the TTD.
I just call.
it?
I'm like, hey, what are you doing?
Is it the same one?
Yes,
Is it
and of
showing
course you
now?
can tell the difference
There we
No,
between,
is that the,
But
no,
that's the wrong one.
that's not it, that's last time's.
TTD and TPD calculation overview.
That's wrong.
what I got on mine.
that's
Okay,
not it.
let's
No.
share. Let's stop sharing.
Let me go back to share.
You can always tell the difference, by the way, because the wage calculation class has Wally the Wage Wizard as opposed to Calculation Cal. Although this is tricky because Calculation Cal also
I
did,
don't know what she means.
Let me see this.
I don't see, those are both TTD, but I
I
don't
want to stop sharing.
yeah,
Stop
we've
sharing.
moved up though, we're making progress. We've gone from wages to
Where's the one
TTD.
you guys are looking at?
Okay,
The right one was, wasn't it?
Where's the,
Teams is
It's
right
on my jump drive if you
right
need
here,
to.
right there.
here?
Yeah, okay. Go to file. And see, you see the one, is it right there?
Yep.
If you ever want to,
Then you share, then go to, back to,
No, I'm gonna minimize that, right? And
Yeah,
now I'm gonna
minimize that,
get
yep.
rid of that and then I'm gonna share this.
yes.
back in the day when we
share.
used to do training,
Share
we
to-
used to
Why is
see
it not
if you
coming
could
up? Oh,
do,
here.
we used to have a contest to see if you could do all the benefit types as quick as you could, like we used to go.
That's
TTD,
it.
TPD, PPD, PTD,
And then
and then you'd say rehab.
presenting
No, I
teams,
never was.
presenting teams, there you go, you got it. Presenting teams.
Yeah.
Right?
We are nerds. I thought we were nerds.
Sharing.
No sharing on my screen.
Get present.
Hang tight.
I was in band.
So is my dad.
this
decide
slide.
what kind. Okay, we're good.
Let's go to this one.
All right.
We're going back here. Okay.
Sorry about that. Now it's not up here.
Oh, lovely.
Um,
Did we unplug
we fin-
We do that.
Anything here. I just shared it in the teams.
How many of you guys
Click
here in
share
the
right
room
here.
Oh, maybe we gotta
have a
share it here
printout
too.
of,
To share it there.
of the slides?
I didn't do the slide.
Yes, yes, yes.
Are you on a whiteboard or are you on a video?
Are we on a whiteboard or a video?
No. He's got to do these. We're good on the computer.
I know, but it says to share the content from the camera.
It says I can share it from the camera.
No?
This is not hooked up to that.
Okay, then go back to share.
Okay, we'll just leave it. We'll just let the
Here he is.
slide.
Now we have to put it up there.
No, I know, but he's gonna do it because they're doing it from that computer.
Screens went out.
Is it from that computer or this computer?
That one.
It's
This
not
one
from
is.
that one. It should be from this one. Is yours right?
Ours is right. Facts about PPD benefit.
But
we can't.
what's giving it to that? Which computer is giving it to that?
It's
Oh,
this
it's
thing.
ours.
He'll get
Okay.
it.
Or it's not USB, the HDMI.
This. The
Present in,
cable.
it says present in Teams. Look.
I don't know, the screens went out, so I don't know if I think it's a their issue.
I think it's a screen issue.
I just presented it in Teams, so it should be there.
Yeah, it's showing on
Ready
Teams.
to those
It's showing
online,
on
go
online.
see real quick.
We will not be taking a break today. This is your break. She said I
It
knew
was
this
too
too.
easy this morning. I know.
We need to go. Please hold while we experience technical
We
difficulties.
had it. It was up there and then it
We
went
will
away.
resume your regularly scheduled program.
Remember that in the old days?
Yeah.
Yeah, we needed a test pattern that comes up and said technical difficulties. All the younger people are like, what?
Do you know where your kids are?
Played the national anthem? Yeah.
And my mom would go, yes, I do. She's in the other room.
How old we are?
No, like that commercial.
Yep. Actually, nowadays, yeah, if you know where your kid is, he's in his bedroom on his phone.
Yeah. More like now, it's more like, do you know what website your kid is on?
Correct. That's 100%.
You have to be home before the street light comes on.
Ah, the street lights, the universal
Slide
sign
in
to
the
go
door when it
home.
shuts off, but I'm coming in. I'm in.
I could totally see you doing that, Annie.
HDMI again.
Go ahead,
Take.
Yeah.
whatever you need to do.
Go ahead. It was working just
Again.
fine.
I know.
Maybe it just had a moment.
Somebody
It feels
broke
like it went off. Like it's not even on. It's not even showing like anything.
Yeah. Let me check.
Maybe we just say, do you have the pamphlet? Does everybody have the pamphlet?
I asked that.
Difficulties at the,
I
Christy,
can-
does everybody have the, they don't have the printout?
well, unless they printed them. I didn't email them last night.
A couple of people did, but not as many as us. So I was thinking if there was a lot of them, we could.
I mean, they could take really good notes. We could keep going and then we could just email it to them again.
I really need.
We'll let us
I really need
cover.
that.
Open it up.
Here, you want me to take a picture?
I am gonna work on my sugar though. Really.
Hello.
Why does she
Roz, come on.
No, I'm good right here.
Jackson.
Come and get it.
Dan already knows.
Don't hug it.
Oh, I
because it
can't
makes
hug
it
it.
look
Okay.
like a
It makes it look
cat.
weird.
1, 2.
She won't hug us.
I'm just it.
It makes it look like an outcast. It makes us look like we're outcasted, you guys. Oh, she's not a hugger.
Screens turned off.
Oh, is that?
She hugged me earlier.
Somebody coughs, use that mark. I have
No, I'm not sick. Girl, please. show up here
Oh,
sick
are
with
you
you.
really staying away from me? Is that the point?
It's because you got the sickness.
I'm sorry.
Mike, switch
Ask
places
Ann,
with me.
nobody comes to work sick. Due to me.
I can switch places
Switch
with
places
Nicole
with
if you
me.
want.
No, that's all right. I'm still right here, Mike.
Okay, she's
She
got
just doesn't want me near.
she's got 2 feet of. I know.
And she is going to let us know.
She's fine.
There is
She's letting us know
no
right now.
question. We asked her to get a picture.
I
She's
feel like I just got told.
Nope.
I got PTSD from COVID.
I don't think this is something.
I don't think so either, but I'm just saying. I have.
And I don't think it's even contagious anymore. Now watch. She's going to
Oh,
get
Mike's
sick.
her outfit's
She's going to blame us.
No,
Oh, I will.
she's not gonna get sick. She's fine. She's got the Purell. Here, do you want some of this?
No.
Oh, listen, I want to show this to you though. This is amazing.
I know, I love those, but these are like $5. Now they're like 10.
What is that?
It's
It smells so good.
Do you want to try it? It's
What scent is that?
Rose water. Here, try it. Try it. I have 3 more at home. It's so good, girl. It's good. I wear it as perfume sometimes. Smell that. Smell that. You can't smell.
Yeah, I can kind of.
Let's keep going. You know what? Let's keep going, and then we will just have you guys take notes, and then this slide is in your email. If you registered, you got it in an email. Are you guys okay with that?
So,
what we've decided is we're gonna go forward even though we do not have above us our screens here. You all at home do have it, so you can follow along. And Mike has it in front of him, so he can follow along. Let's go.
Okay.
okay. So again, we kind of mentioned that the PPD is not a settlement, and that these calculations are set by statutes, and you can't negotiate them. You can't say, well, I want, 10% more or whatever. These are set by statute, and all right. Uh-oh. It's not going. It's not going.
Okay.
Okay, some key deadlines that most of us are aware of if you've been working with these things. You have 30 days from, I have listed, well, you guys won't see it, but the NRS and NAC that they're from. But 30 days from receipt of MMI to request a rating physician from DIR, schedule the PPD, and get the PPD appointment letter out.
Can we talk about when we get
Go ahead.
Okay.
You
Okay.
jump.
So just for those of you in the room that may be sending us, am I not loud enough? Can you guys?
Mike right there in front of you.
Oh, hello.
You have to hit the button.
Okay. Can you guys hear me?
Yes.
For those of you that send to our offices request for a PPD calculation, understand that we do not start that process until we actually receive the MMI stable and rateable. So our timeline starts, that 30 days starts when we get it, not when it was generated by the doctor. It has to be received by our office for that 30 days to start. Okay.
So then, once the appointment, the PPD is done, the physician has 14 calendar days to send in the PPD report. And then once the PPD is received, we have 14 days to issue the PPD offer letter with the calculations.
Hold on.
Go ahead.
That means those of you that have clients that you need to seek approval for, that means that all of that has to be done within 14 days of your receipt of that PPD report. So all the things that have to be done administratively on the back end that maybe folks don't understand, that we still have to get authority, we still have to do all of these things, there may be a reserving holdup, whatever it is, all of that has to be done before the offer goes out in 14 days. Because once you offer it, it's offered. You can't retract it.
It's important too that you guys understand that with the current atmosphere at DIR, this isn't easy for them to pick up, and you don't want that to happen because they are finding at maximum abilities. So you want to make sure that you've got your timeline in place.
Okay, so the next step after you make the offer, the next step is that when the D9A and the reaffirmation of election went out with your offer. The injured worker or attorney sign it, and then they send it back to us. And when we get it back, we have 20 calendar days to issue payment to whoever signed it. So if it's the injured worker, you send it back to them with a check. You have a question?
How long do the claimant have to send it back?
They can never give it back to you. There is no timeline for the injured worker.
Before we were starting payment?
Okay, so that's a great question, and I was gonna get to that. It's 30 days is predominantly industry standard, that if somebody does not sign an election of method and return it to our office within 30 days of the offer, I would start forced installments. Please start forced installments, because it is withholding benefits if you don't.
We're gonna talk about, when we go through talking about the forms themselves, you'll see when you're calculating it out, the dates, you would actually put a date on your form, the date that you would start paying. That date's very relevant. A lot of people don't pay attention, but if that date comes, you need to issue your payment immediately, because that first installment payment, it is a due date, and there is on there. They don't have to ever turn it in. If someone never turns in their EOM, you just issue it on installments forever. The only problem with that is you can't place it in an annuity without the election of method.
Also, if you have an injured worker that you don't have a returned EOM, call them and say, did you get my offer in the mail? They may not know that it came. I always encourage everyone to call them and say, hey, we would like to get this done. Can you sign it? Can you at least tell me what you want to do with it? People want their money, so give them a phone call. It's really nice. And then you get to close your file.
And if they are represented, call the attorney, because you're still gonna issue that first installment, and it's your opportunity to have that conversation with that attorney and say, what are we doing here? Are you getting another one or whatever? Once you issue that first payment, it panics the attorney, because they understand, wait a minute, we're not in control of the cash, we're not, wait. So, again, when you've got that EOM and it hasn't come back, make sure you contact either, like Nicole says, the injured worker, or you call the attorney and say, hey, what are we doing here? I'm issuing this check. Oh, Sue here, hold on.
Just real quick. They have 70 days to appeal. So the attorneys can do whatever they want within that 70 days. I do follow up after 30 days, and either a phone call or a letter saying, hey, what's going on. However, historically, I wait until the appeal rights expire before I initiate the forced installments, because you never know when, you definitely want forced installments, because I can tell you, going back and trying to pay interest on a PPD years later, you'll regret it.
It's not as much fun either.
Yeah. Okay, Mike.
So the next slide, should you be able to see it, is a list of information that you need in order to calculate the PPD. So I'll read it out, and those of you at home can see it, but those of you here, we need the injured worker's date of birth. We're going to need that to know when to stop the PPD, because we're going to calculate the 70th birthday. We need the date of injury or the date of reopening if the claim's been reopened. We need the average monthly wage, the correct and verified average monthly wage. And that's one of the reasons why, if you were in the wage class, we always talked about getting that as early as you can in the claim, because there's nothing worse than getting to PPD time and finding out that you don't have a verified wage. And now you've got all these deadlines and you don't have wage information.
And the claim's 10 years old, it's been in litigation, it's on microfiche, and you can't get the wages. Nightmare.
So for MO claims, you may still have a PPD on an MO claim. Remember that it does not have to be lost time or an indemnity status in order to have a PPD. Just putting that out there. So for those of you that are like, oh, it's an MO claim, I don't need to get an AMW, I don't need to get the wages, that's not true. You still may need to get that depending on the diagnosis and depending on if their diagnosis is rateable.
The next thing that you're going to need is the PPD whole person impairment. So PPDs, of course, when we send the injured workers to the doctor does his magic. I love some of the little machines they use to see how far you can bend and all the different things that they have. But the doctor will apply the PPD 5th edition, the AMA Guides 5th edition. It's about that thick. If any of you worked with the Green Book, I have one at home. We could have another class on that, several of them. But I leave that to the docs. They're going to go and they're going to perform their magic. And at the end, they're going to give you a percentage of whole person that this person is awarded. And then that's what you're going to use in the PPD calculation. You also need to know what day are you going to actually pay the PPD. A lot of times you're calculating it and paying it on the same day. Or excuse me, you're calculating it based on when you think the EOM is going to be returned. And there's a lot of different formulas out there. Some people will calculate the PPD and they'll use a thing where they'll say, if it's within the first 15 days of the month, I'll calculate it for payment this month. And if it's in the last 15 days of the month, or if it's 16, I'll calculate it for payment next month.
It's a good rule of thumb.
It's basically the day that you think you're going to pay the PPD for real. It can be changed later, but it's going to change the amount of the PPD, so it's important to kind of keep that in mind. The 1st through the 15th, 15th through the 30th, the 31st is a good way to go. You also need to know if there's been any prior PPD installments or payments on this claim. So in other words, sometimes you're paying PPD, but there's already been some paid, and then maybe it went through litigation, and we got a different amount, but there's already been some money paid. You need to know that, obviously. And you need to know if there's any prior PPDs that have been paid on this claim.
And over.
Yeah, or if there's any overpayments.
And the overpayments will only be if you've sent a letter prior within that 30 days in order to collect later. So you can't just take it out when you want to take it out. You have to have notified them and given them appeal rights, and it has to be documented in the file. Oh, did somebody have a question? Somebody have a question? Oh, bless you.
This next part is going to be a little tricky without the slide. So,
Oh, can we go back really quick?
Yeah.
1 second.
we're going back.
Sorry about that. When you guys are offering the PPDs, and going back to what Mike was talking about, the day of the offer, and when you think they're going to sign, and when you think they're going to elect, make sure that you guys are paying attention to the date they signed the EOM, because if it's in the following month, you do have to do your recalculation to present day. Does everybody understand that?
It'll make more sense when we actually do
We'll
this.
look at it again when we do the calculation, but I just wanted to make sure those of you online know that you have to recalculate it for the month they signed, not from when you offered it, from the month they signed.
So when we're talking about a PPD benefit and how it's made up, if you guys out here want to think of a timeline, so if I was out there, I would be drawing a timeline with two ends and a beginning and an end, and then a line in the middle. Okay, that's your time that PPD benefit covers. Now the first day, yes, thank you. That's what it looks like. The first date that's critical for a PPD is the start date of the PPD. When does this benefit pick up? And the answer to that is, it's the day after the last day of TTD or TPD that you've paid. That's one option. If you've paid TTD or TPD, you just go to the day after that, and that's when the PPD starts. It's really important when you're thinking about these days. You can't overlap these benefits, because if you think about it, if you're on TTD, you're saying that somebody is temporarily, totally disabled. Well, now if you're switching to PPD, they're permanently, partially disabled. So you can't be both of those at the same time. You can't be permanent and temporary at the same time. You can't be totally and partially at the same time. So if it makes sense, you can't have overlapping benefits. So we find out when we stop TTD, and then the day after that's when we pick up the PPD. Okay, so that would be on your left side. That's the start date. Then, at the end, is the injured worker's 70th birthday. We pay PPD benefits through age 70. Now, there's a caveat that goes with that. For injured workers that are older than 65, if you will, but sometimes it's a little bit earlier, we have something called a minimum lump sum, because the law prescribes that you get a minimum of 5 years of benefits. So if you're injured when you're 90, we don't make you pay 20 years worth of benefits. That would be fun.
And
That
we
was supposed to be a
probably
joke.
make
It obviously didn't go over.
We would not
Days.
make that payment. We would not.
Everyone just kind of looked at me like, what? Paying what? No.
We're already lost.
Yeah, 20 years.
So if
on
you
a
get
90.
injured at 90 and you get a PPD, you're still going to get a minimum of 5 years of a benefit.
Yes.
And that benefit, by the way, is not available in installments. That one you just pay the minimum lump sum and it's done.
It's also not negotiable.
Right.
Not negotiable.
If you qualify for the minimum is what you get. I've recently seen a lot of people go for the installments on the minimum.
Yeah, which you can't do. Because the minimum is just calculated as a base of 5 years. Now, for anybody that's younger than that, you're going to have your start date of the day after TTD, TPD, and your 70th birthday. Now, going back to the start date really quick, I should mention that if there are no TTD, TPD paid, which is very common when you have employers that are very accommodating, we're seeing more and more employers that are getting people back to work right away, which is really a great thing. But when you don't have any TTD, then you go back to the date of injury or the date of reopening. So if there's been no TTD, you get PPD for the whole time, date of injury, 70th birthday. Does that make sense? Especially to those of you here that don't have my really cool graphic that I spent hours getting right.
Did you see? There's no
Online.
TTD
It's
starting the
online.
date of injury, right? Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so, went backwards. Okay, so then comes another date which is in the middle, okay? It's not in the middle, it's just moved over. And this is where we're going to differentiate the PPD into two parts. We're going to have a first payment of PPD. And if you want to think of it as that's the catch-up, that's where you're going to pay them current on their PPD benefits.
Line 3.
Yeah, and we're going to plug and play with the forms as well. So you're going to figure out what the first payment is, and then the second component is everything in the future. Okay, so the first payment is going to be paid based on the formulas, and it's not going to, they don't get to elect that in installments or lump sum. We just pay that payment. Now, for everything future, the injured worker gets to choose whether they want installments or whether they want a lump sum. And of course that, the lump sum is reduced dollars. I just call it future dollars. There's these people called actuaries that many of you may know. They're way smarter than me. And they have all these data and numbers and they crunch them and they come up with things, and that's how they come up with that. And that's literally what I say because that's my extent of actuarial knowledge. But for us, to me, it makes sense. It's like when you win the lottery, you get less if you take it all at once, and you can take installments, which, does anybody do that? I don't, I wouldn't. And it was interesting, Ann referred just a little bit for those of you really into it, because I can see it.
Real nerds.
You can see us all into it.
Real nerds.
If you really want to be nerdy, they actually change these numbers over time because of interest rates and those kinds of things. Because in theory, if you take your lump sum,
there's a 30-year bond rate. And basically, it's required by regulation that the factor is always updated. They didn't update it, so now they update it every year.
I know.
And it's based on a 30-year federal bond.
And it's called the present day interest.
Right, so now we're into the double nerd.
Okay, we've identified the nerds in the room.
Now we've identified the nerdier ones.
Killing us.
Not saying, but just saying. For those of us that actually have a life, no, that wouldn't be me. I'm teasing. I just say, you know what? You take the lump sum, you get less money, but you take the installments, you're good.
And it should be noted that if you do have somebody that elects the installments and they die, it doesn't go to their family. They don't get it. It stops. It closes.
Not a transferable benefit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So here's the thing. The reason that this is going to be critical is because the thing that affects the first payment date, the first payment end date, and I wish this was up here, is the last day of the month prior to the month in which you pay it. So, let's say we were paying a PPD today. We were paying it today. Our first payment end date would be March 31st, because today is April, and then we would go to the month prior, March, end of the day would be 3/31. I know I'm sounding like I'm being a little bit redundant, but I just want to make sure everybody's clear. Now tomorrow, of course, it switches, because if we paid the PPD tomorrow, now we're in May, and the last day of the month prior would be April 30th. Because that date changes, the thing to keep in mind, the first payment is paid in actual real-time dollars. It's paid at the actual rate. If you're electing a lump sum, you're getting a reduced rate on the future benefits. So as that number slides over, for instance, if you pay it the following month, it slides over just a little bit, the number will change slightly. And where we see this a lot is in situations like you send out the election method to the injured worker. They sign it, there's an amount on it, and they write the amount down. And then when you send it to them, maybe they sign it and it's paid in the following month, or they wait 30 days to sign it and then they send it in. The PPD is going to be slightly larger. They usually don't call and complain about that, but if they did, you could explain that. Some of the clients will want to know, why are you paying them an extra $10? Because sometimes it's literally that much. And I just say, because they're really nice and they sent me something in the mail, and that's why. The truth is, it's because that date has moved over a little bit. And so I like my little timeline, because then in my head, it's like, okay, I just moved that one little bar over, and the longer I wait, the bigger my first payment becomes, and the smaller my lump sum becomes. And so that's what'll happen. And it won't be that big of a deal unless you're in litigation or something where there's a huge gap in between those, and then that date can move.
And I think that works for the reverse though, right? Because if you thought they were going to elect it next month and they're like, here it is,
Yeah.
you got to recalculate.
You got to recalculate it,
That's
because you
amazing.
got to pay it you got to calculate it based on the month you're paying it.
Yes.
If you don't, you're going to get fined, and it's not appropriate.
Just
And then
because
they're
it
gonna
might
be like,
be.
but it was supposed to be this
And
amount.
that's
It was.
exactly what happens. No, so there you go.
In another note, just because you might offer it on April 30th, don't calculate it for May 1st, because if DIR comes in there, they're gonna ding you for that. You need to put the date that you offered it, and not just because it may go out, or you may think that they're gonna sign it next month. Do it the date that you're doing it, and don't assume that just because because they may send, especially if you email it to them or whatnot, you may get it back that same day, because sometimes you have those relationships with your injured workers. You're going to send the email out that day, or send the offer letter out that day to them.
Or they're in your office ready to sign it on
Correct.
that day. And it's important for your administrators to understand also, and this is really for just the brand new adjusters, this isn't something to blow off in the sense that you have to recalculate it. It's a pain in the butt, I understand that, it irritates me, but you have to recalculate it. The calculation has to be right. It's a favorite finding of the DIR.
Yeah, and it makes sense. I mean, as with any benefit, it's calculated, so it needs to be right.
Yep.
And that's pretty simple. So in the old days, by the way, there's a couple different forms that you'll be seeing. We used to, in the old, way back days, in the old CIS days, the injured workers or attorneys would actually come into the office. Remember those days? And we would hand them the paper check, and they would sign the reaffirmation of, I'm taking this lump sum at that time. And so you'd hand them the check, they would hand you the reaffirmation. Now, of course, in our world we don't do that. Everything is online. And technically, the injured worker has 20 days to change their mind, which is where that 20 days comes from. So we'll talk about that a little bit more later. All right, so we have our beginning date of PPD which is the day after the last TTD, TPD pay, oh boy, TPD, TPD paid, or the date of injury if there isn't one, and then you have your end date, which is the 70th birthday, and then you have your first payment date, which is the month, the last day of the month prior to the month when you're paying it. Boy, simple, right? Now, I have the next slide, which is really pretty. It's talking about that change that I just discussed. It's talking about how you make the initial payment bigger and it's going to be slightly higher. You make the lump sum smaller. Now would be the challenge. So I'm going to give you guys the information here in the room that you need. What I would like you guys to practice is you're just going to come up with 3 dates. Based on the dates I give you, the start date of the PPD, the end date of the PPD, and then the end of the first payment, or the first payment end date. So it's those 3 days we just discussed. I will tell you that the injured worker's date of birth is August 2nd, 1978. So if you want to jot that down, injured worker date of birth, August 2nd, 1978. Happens to be my birthday, not the same year though, but hey, whatever. In case you want to send money, cards. It's coming up, not too long. Our date of injury on this one is 5/21 of 2025. Oh, I'm sorry, that's supposed to be 2024.
It hasn't happened yet.
That's supposed to be 2024, my apologies. Man, and 3 of us looked at this thing really close.
Man.
It's too many numbers. I did this the last time. All right, last day of TTD, TPD paid is December 15th of 24. 12/15/24. And I think that the rest of the information will be necessary later, but I'm going to leave it to you.
So the date awarded is also 5/5/24? And the date of injury is 5/21?
Oh, yeah, the date we're going to pay the award is 5/5/25.
That is correct?
Yeah, we're going to pay it next
Month.
So date
month.
of injury was 5/21/24?
Correct.
Yes, that's the one that's wrong. My date of injury is incorrect. It should be 5/21/24. So everybody at home, make a note of it. Many people online are now bringing up their cheat spreadsheet, putting in this information, and then they're going to pretend they calculated it by hand. And we know, sitting here,
We know the truth.
We know the truth.
what they're doing. So those of you doing that, I know you're doing it.
We get it. We get it. We understand.
And
Everyone
you're
here in the
only
room is not
cheating
doing it.
yourself. Remember, treat yourself, don't cheat yourself.
Ooh,
It's a good one.
That's like a Weight Watchers.
That's a good one.
I don't know if that's it, but hey,
Treat yourself. Don't cheat.
don't cheat. Just by show of hands, I noticed a number of you did that in your, yeah, you didn't. It's math. How many of you are done and have your dates? How many of you are not bothering to calculate it, saying, we'll just wait for the answers?
It's 3 dates, right?
3 dates you need.
Start date, end date. I'm copying. I'm saying whatever you say.
Sabrina had a question. Oh, wait. Let me look at the chat real quick.
Start date, end date, and will?
You need a start date, end date, and the end of the first payment.
Is there anything in, is it in the chat?
Tina, it is after the date of injury, but remember, we meant that to be 2024, not 25. So take it back to 5/21/24.
Jeopardy theme is playing. The hard part here is figuring out the 70th birthday. Maybe. The math people are good at it. Are you fixing it?
No, I'm just trying to see if there's any questions in here that we should be addressing.
can't help but feel that we've broken this. Somehow it's our fault.
How long are we gonna give him?
Another couple minutes.
Can we have a couple minutes so you can check the laptop?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah?
Does he need the laptop?
Go ahead.
Yeah, you guys broke it.
If I broke it, I would. I know, they got.
The entire IT department's here. Thank you.
Listen, I love IT.
It wasn't me.
I like
I'm
those
happy
people.
about it.
They
Thank
know
you.
things.
I opened something that wasn't.
I'm waiting for him to say, hey, we need to restart. I'm not preaching. Putting up my gas.
I hate that.
That's,
It's funny because they'll say, did you read it? I'm like, no, I didn't know if I was supposed to open it.
We're not gonna, if you guys here want to take a quick break to use the restroom, you can. We're probably not gonna take one
Later,
later.
right.
You can go whenever you want, but the doors are not locked, but
not yet.
not yet. And I say that
It's a
just
workers'
because I
comp
need more
escape
coffee.
room.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, you're fine. Anyway.
That's it. The first to the last. You're good. That's it, right there. You guys must have dropped it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would you like my whoop whoop?
Hey!
I didn't.
I don't know.
Are you good independent? I don't know.
You've got things to do.
Thank you so much.
You know what? Trish does it.
How's the maple cup?
Trish.
Yeah, you put in that. You can go to Star Nursery, they got that.
I said, we brought in the big guys now.
I feel that way about PTD.
It was working the whole time, and then all of a sudden it went out.
It's kids at pomegranate.
I mean, it's been out for about 45
Then they
minutes.
break it open. Then you get some like
Bread.
I don't know.
You should see them on my fig tree.
Oh, got it. No, yeah, that's
My fig tree, they fight at the top. Oh, here anyway. They fight. And I'm like, oh, fig tree almost ready.
Next time we're
I can tell by the birds fighting. No, I don't know that orange.
You know who that is? Alex Brown.
Bell pepper. Oh, cool. Yep. Oh, yeah, you can. Slice them, julienne them, and freeze them. They last forever. Because I do that in the grocery store. You see them, 3 for 99 cents or whatever. I buy them because I just slice them up and then I have fresh bell pepper.
Then I laughed and they had Alex is you had a green signal. There's like
I thought you said tan.
oh, you said it was me.
What does it say no? Why does it say no?
Oh, so you don't have it. Yeah, that's why we didn't have
No one's got beautiful Chinese.
It was working before.
They probably
I thought we might close it and just.
Yeah, I'm gonna do smart. And then, yeah, and if you're cool with the restart, we'll definitely do that.
originally there was.
It wasn't showing any monitors, but I did run a Windows update. There was an update on it.
Okay, so maybe that was why.
Yeah, so when I went back into the display settings, because originally this only said one.
Oh, okay.
So
Okay, so it's good now.
yeah, it should be good.
Okay, thank you. Sorry about that.
No, you're fine. That's awesome. You're a lifesaver. But now we got a shorter HDMI. We just want to be careful.
And based on your IP, you can go to what's the new good? Yes. Street person.
Yeah, which is our Jerry.
Yay!
IT Gerard, good job.
They're all.
Thanks, guys. Thanks for being patient. We appreciate you.
I'm gonna.
So we got a shorter cord now, so we just want to be. I know.
That's perfect, it's working.
It's working. Yeah. All IT. This guy right here.
Hey, you guys so much. Oh, absolutely. Thank you.
All right.
Awesome.
All right. That's great.
Can I run this as a presentation?
That's what I told Sydney to go after. They do though. They're everybody's boss.
I'm gonna be just like, you guys just be careful.
Okay.
You're backing up like right here.
Oh, we'll be careful.
Can I make this,
Can you make it what?
am I able to make this into a spreadsheet, into a, maybe I shouldn't touch it.
No, right. You should just keep moving.
Try to advance here real quick.
Oh, I see. Because it looks the same way up top.
I don't know why it's,
Can you click another one and let me see if it's. Okay, it is. Okay. Well, that's what you got, Mike.
hey,
At least we got it.
it's better than nothing.
Okay.
All right.
All right, so let's take a look at what we came up with as our dates. Our start date, 12/16 of 2024. Our end date, August 1st of 2048. And the initial payment end date, or the first payment end date, is 4/30, because if we're paying it in May, it's the last day of the month prior. And this date here will move. If we don't pay this until July, or June, or July, then we have to recalculate it, and we're going to get a slightly different amount of money. Okay. Pardon me for a minute. This is now, okay. Now, the forms we're going to be looking at, the first one that I'm going to go through is the D9A. The D9A is the form that we use for PPDs where the whole person impairment is 30% or less. There's a cap on how much you can get from a lump sum. Now, see, you're messing.
Sorry, I'm trying to make it big.
See, this is why I didn't touch it.
Sorry, guys, I'm trying to make it bigger.
No,
I
you
know.
can't. We close that. Close that.
Yes. So make sure that you have the correct form. There's a lot of old forms running around out there. So make sure that you have the correct, up-to-date form. The first part of the form is your demographic information, where you're going to put your name, your social security number, wage, date of birth, all of the fun stuff. And then there's going to be a place where you can put the disability percentage, which you need, the whole person impairment, which you need to calculate your forms. I'm going to go through this fairly quickly. Did I miss one? Nope. Yeah, there we go. The next part is where you're going to plug in information to do your installment calculations. The really good thing about this form, it looks intimidating when you look at it because there's a lot of math, there's a lot of lines, But the truth is, what you want to do is just plug and play. Just put the numbers that we've talked about in. So here, you're going to plug in the monthly wage. Now, there's 3 different amounts that are used there. The one we use most of the time now is 0.006, because that's since, we'll talk about the dates later, because that'll just get confusing. They changed the amount 3 times, and so it used to be 0.005. Then for a little short time, it was 0.0054, and then it was 0.006. And that factor is date of injury driven. So we'll look at, there's a thing at the bottom of the form that tells you what dates of injury to use. So you'll know which one of those to use. And then you're going to calculate it to get the monthly rate. Monthly rate times 12 gives you the annual rate. The annual rate divided by 365.25 is the daily rate. And you're going to need those 3 rates in order to calculate your PPD. So you need your monthly rate, your annual rate, and your daily rate. This also is a place where you can calculate the date of birth. So you can put in the year of birth plus 70, and that'll give you your the 70th birthday. And we'll show you that in a little bit. Next part of the form is the first payment calculation. So this, again, you would just plug in the dates that we had. The last day of TTD or TPD paid, the first payment date would be the next day we talked about. And then it's going to give you the second line there, which is where it's going to talk about putting in your beginning date and then your first payment end date, which is what we calculated. And then the rest of it is going to be the lump sum part. So you're going to pick up where that ends. For instance, in our example, we were at we were at 430. You see?
Yay! Make it full screen.
Nice.
It's a little better.
Apologies for. So then, after your first payment, which ours was through 430 that we calculated, you have to pick up with the next day, 5/1/2025, on to the 70th birthday. And so we're going to plug those dates in there. And that's going to tell me how many years. Now, what happens is, when you pay a PPD, and say you're paying installments on the PPD till their 70th birthday. Well, if we made our installment end on 430, the chances are the injured worker's not going to have a birthday that's 430. We have a 1 in 365.25 chance of that.
It could be.
So there's going to be a little piece at the end. You're going to pay, say, yearly installments, 1 year, 2 years, all the way through. And then there's going to be, at the very end, there's going to be a partial payment to catch them up to their 70th birthday. Now, if it's 2048, I don't think it will be me calculating it. So, heck, let's forget it. No, I'm teasing. So it makes you calculate the last payment. And this will make more sense when we actually do our calculation. Alrighty. The next part is the minimum lump sum. Again, you just plug in, it's 0.5 times the percentage of disability times the average monthly wage, and that's when you get the minimum lump sum. And if the minimum lump sum is more than the lump sum that you end up calculating, then you give them the minimum. It's usually going to be for people over 65. This is how we calculate the lump sum. It's plug and play. It's just a lot of fields that you have to fill in. And it'll tell you, it looks like a tax form to me. Effective date of the award is the year and month following to be per NAC. So the first couple of these forms are going to, the first couple of these lines are going to calculate the 70th birthday. And then it's going to ask you for the monthly rate. Then we have a factor form, a table for present value. Now, in your email that you got on the class, there's a form or a chart that you can get off of the DIR website. That's where I got it. And it's going to have the actuarial tables. And I don't think that I have it on my presentation, which is unfortunate. But how many of you have the form up, or that form with you?
Oh, perfect, we got one person.
So,
And the good news is with that table, where would they find it if they didn't have it?
The DIR
DIR
website.
There we go.
And
Now-
also, make sure you check and make sure you're checking those actuary table dates, because sometimes it'll say 2023, and it gives you the parameters of that date of injury. So our fiscal year is 7/1, and it changes every 7/1. So make sure you're not just grabbing and going with a number, make sure you're checking that date of injury against that actuary table to make sure it's correct.
I do have some actuary tables at the front if you guys want some.
yeah. So the actuary table is pretty simple to use. You're going to look for how many years and months the person is. Kind of going to refer back to the days when they were a toddler and everybody says, oh, they're 22 months. Only we're going to do it years and months. So you're going to come up with, well, they're 48 years and 6 months old. And if you find out how many years and months old they are, then you just go down the actuary table, find 48, and then move across to 6 months, and there's a figure in there. And I'll show you how to do it. I wish I had put that in here.
On the actuary table, make sure you do not count the 0 column as part of your months, because the 0 column is for usually like settlement.
Well, the 0
stuff.
column is if you just turned.
Yeah, or if you just turned and you're in the month of your birthday, it's gonna be 0, but a lot of times they'll use it for settlement too. But anyways, my point is that if you're counting just over 6 lines, you're gonna be miscalculating it, because that 0 is not counting for the month, the total 6 months. I'm probably not making sense.
Yeah, what it does is if you've used it before, you tend to go, okay, 48 years, 1 month, you go down 48 years, and then you go over 1, because you think 1 month. What Nicole's saying is there's a column for 0. So if you need 48 years, 1 month, you gotta go down 48, and you actually go over 2, because you go 0, 1. And everybody that I know that's calculated PPDs when they first do it makes that mistake at some point. I know that I've made it multiple times, and hopefully your checking calculation buddy will catch you. And if they don't, find a new calculation buddy, because they suck and you don't want that. That's the way it is. No, I mean, it's a tricky thing. I'm going to show you some math. I always wish we had a whiteboard
And
in
if you
here.
are a calculation buddy, take your job serious.
Yeah.
Well, it is true. I mean, because you all know that there are calculation buddies. People who are checking your work, they just kind of go, yep, looks good.
Yep.
I
And,
feel like the room
Oh,
doesn't
you
know
got this,
about
and
the
they find-
calculation buddy thing.
Well, for those of you that don't know about the calculation buddy is the person who checks your work.
It has to be, it's not optional. You have to have a second checker.
You really do, because no matter how good you are at math or at these things, you know, it's sort of like the date of injury being 2025 when it should be 24. You know, you make mistakes. It happens. You know what I'm saying? And then when it happens, you need somebody to catch it.
Not to mention, there's a line at the very bottom that they have to sign.
Oh,
That's right.
there's that too.
It's mandatory, the
yeah.
second checker.
Go figure. Yeah, so anyway, we'll talk more about the actuarial table when we do our example. That's going to go there on line 11. That fancy, it's usually a 3-digit number with 3 decimals after it. And then you're going to be adding things together. So you're going to add the initial payment to the lump sum. Then it's going to compare that to the minimum lump sum. It's going to subtract any applicable prepayments you've made or payments you've already made. Overpayments, whatever.
If you started first installments, this is the amount that you would put in here. You would calculate all the months you paid first installments and remove it from line 15. Also, that includes overpayments that are okay to have on the file, that you've already documented and given appeal rates for.
So this is a kind of a plug and play thing. That's what I call it.
I like it,
Plug and play.
but it shows that we're old, plug and play.
Yeah, we're old.
Now you just.
And this is the part that I was talking about earlier. First of all, it has the example. It tells you what dates of injury to use the 0.5. 0.005 is for injuries sustained before 7/1/81. So if you happen to be paying a PPD on a claim that has a date of injury of prior to 7/1/81, you need 0.005. I'm hopeful that there's not many of those out there anymore. And then for the period of 7/1/81 through 6/17/93, that just makes it a little complicated, 6/17/93, then you're going to use that one you're actually going to use 0.006. Then it switched to the 0.0054, which is for injuries after 6/18/93. And then it switched again to 0.006 again on 1/1/2000. So you've basically got 4 different periods in there that you're going to use. And it's kind of tricky, but you just kind of have to figure out where it fits in there. It's right there under those asterisks. The other asterisks are from the various spots in the form. It's just little hints to tell you what to use there. One of them that it comes in handy is the one with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 asterisks, which is monthly installments versus annual installments. Typically, if you have an annual installment, or excuse me, a monthly installment of more than $100 or more, you pay the installments monthly. If it's less than $100 a month, you pay annual installments. That's how we determine whether it's monthly or annual that you get.
And that's based off the lines A, B, and C at the very top.
Right. Yep. The very first part of the form. Like I said, the form is tricky, but you can easily navigate it. We've got one that's completed that you'll do. All right, so we're going to try one.
This is what we're gonna do?
This is the one we're going to do.
It's a left knee sprain?
It's a left knee.
Date of injury is 24, just so you know.
You need to make the change on this that the date of injury is 5/21/24. My apologies. I, of course, copied and pasted this through the whole presentation, so it's going to be wrong everywhere.
Sorry, real quick,
It's not wrong on the form, right?
real quick, and I think this was on the last slide. What is BB on the minimum?
That is
Body part?
percentage of body basis, which is the whole person impairment. It's the percentage of impairment.
So the entire body impairment, not just their body.
Whole person,
Just
whole
whatever
person.
Right, because it might be knee plus spine plus ankle plus whatever.
So that's-
So BB is when it gets to the thing, it says whole body impairment. It's the last paragraph.
You know, and they make it fun in work comp because there's a whole bunch of different ways to say the same thing, and you get people that all do that. So, for instance, I got used to whole person impairment, WPI. Other people would say percentage of body basis. It's the same thing. It's your WPI. It's just whether you want to do whole person impairment versus percentage of body basis. It's the same thing. It's just, I think, what is it like saying regardless or irregardless, or is that the one? Or no, flammable and inflammable. This means the same thing. Just sounds funny when you do it. So if you can go ahead and get your 9A and B, no, just the 9A for this one, and fill it in with these dates.
We're gonna do it by hand, folks.
We're going to do it by hand. Now, everybody online, again, this is where I know you are cheating.
Don't use that
Stop it.
magical Excel sheet
Stop
that
the
everybody
cheating
has.
now.
Yeah.
I know who in my office is currently cheating,
And mine.
and I'm not going to lie,
So
when I
question,
checked my
so
numbers, I did.
Why not do it on the, is there errors on the?
No, here's the thing. If you truly understand how this is put together, then by all means, you're gonna use the spreadsheet, the cheat sheet. That's what we do on a daily basis. That's what I did to get the numbers for this example. But the problem that you have out there is a lot of adjusters were given the cheat, I call it cheat, but we're given the worksheet or the spreadsheet and just told plug in the numbers, and they have no idea how those numbers turn into what and how.
Because there's still questions on the calculation form.
And when you are trying to explain it,
I was told to use this.
Oh.
There's still questions that you have to plug into the, he's calling it the cheat sheet. It's not a cheat, it's a calculation.
Excel sheet.
Excel spreadsheet.
Right, if you don't understand what those numbers are, like, it'll say, put the date of award in there. Well, if you don't know and you're brand new to this, you're not gonna understand what that means. So he's saying, we're all saying, if you do it by hand, it programs you to understand the why, and then when you go to use that, as long as you understand it, it's safe to use.
And also what'll happen is when you do the Excel spreadsheet and you get blanks, you get weird numbers, et cetera, and you go back and look, if you understand how that Excel spreadsheet works, you're able to find out where your error is.
Yeah.
So it's important that's the reason we always say that if you're new, you need to calculate them so that you understand where all the factors are and how you got up to that lump sum.
Must be a Corbell thing. Sorry, I'm gonna say online, even if you plug in the numbers, you still have to calculate each line to make sure that your form is not corrupted, and then have it checked by your buddy.
Right.
Is that my Tina?
Yeah, your team.
Right, because here's the thing with the Excel sheet, for those that are using it. It doesn't transfer the monthly table, or it doesn't transfer the actuary table. You have to manually put that in to your actual spreadsheet, or the form. You have to put it into the form. It doesn't ask on the spreadsheet questions. It makes you put it in there. So if you offer something and that actuary table is wrong, because you're just hoping that the Excel spreadsheet works, and you don't put that number in from the DIR actuary table, your lump sum is gonna be wrong. And your attorneys are gonna call you, everybody's gonna call you, and it's gonna be a nightmare. So check that if you're using that Excel spreadsheet.
11, you always have to adjust.
Number 11 needs to be always from the table, because the system will not generate that, because it doesn't talk to the actuary table.
Do you have something to say, Sandy?
So I passed out two things years ago. One was one of these forms, and I numbered them, and I typed out what each one was and why. And then I passed out that Excel spreadsheet, but I think the Excel spreadsheet is the only thing that is still alive today.
It is.
Alive and well.
Alive and well, and
Yes.
and
Everybody uses it.
it's
And we all just got jacked up because the 9 changed, and we were like, what are we gonna do now? But hopefully you guys understand that too. 9 just changed, and so if you're using Excel spreadsheet and your company has not talked about the fact there's a new 9, you might wanna bring it to your supervisor's attention.
You do
Yeah.
the calculation and then you transfer it onto the new one.
Yeah, there you go.
you can
There you
do
go.
that, or you can fix the spreadsheet. Either way.
Yeah.
The other thing that I see a lot on the spreadsheet is that people mess up the formulas. They don't mean to, but they do. They delete a field, or they move a field, or they try to make it bigger and it messes it up. And the next thing you know, they're calculating all their PPDs wrong.
That
And-
spreadsheet's over 20 years old.
Well, it's still great. I mean, if you did it, then congratulations, because it's very
I
helpful.
didn't do it, Joanne Lamoya did it.
Okay, well, but still, it's,
Joanne Lamoya?
Yes,
Holy
ma'am.
man.
yeah, I mean, it's been out there for a while.
I don't know.
In the old SIAS day, we actually had a unit, a special group of people that calculated all PPDs because they were complicated. And
That's all they did. That's all they did was.
yeah, that's all, well, they did. There was claims audit, and they also did auditing, but they would do the PPD and send it to you as an adjuster, and then you would do your thing. It actually was not very fun, because if it was wrong, like if you waited, if you had to recalculate, then you had to send it back, and they had to recalculate the whole thing by hand. We didn't have a spreadsheet. Now, here's the thing I would suggest for those of you using a spreadsheet. Just a little tidbit from Calculation Cal to you. If you're using a spreadsheet, what my favorite trick was is when I was doing my PPD reserve early on in the claim, as soon as I knew that I was gonna have a PPD reserve, I completed the form, I completed the spreadsheet, and I saved it under a folder with that injured worker's name on it. And so when I did my estimates, I actually did them based on when I estimated everything to happen. Now, it was rare that I was gonna get the date right, you know, because I'm guessing as to when the guy's gonna be MMI, but I found that it was a better reserve, you know, putting in your percentage. The other thing that was benefit is that then, when you actually get the PPD paperwork back, you just have to change your spreadsheet. Just change a few dates and boom, you're done. It saved a lot of time. And I would strongly suggest that for you. I can always tell when somebody's doing that because the PPD reserve, if you've got a PPD reserve and it's, say, $20,000, I know that you're just guessing, which you may be really good at. Ann is really good at it. Or if you use the sheet, you're not going to see an even number like that. And that's why I strongly suggest using the worksheet, if you have it, for your reserves, because then you'll get a better reserve. Plus, if you're just guessing and you put 20 grand in, people don't get the idea that you've really put a lot of thought into it, even if you have. And you know that as adjusters, sometimes you kind of have a feel for what things are going to be because you've had them before, but people don't believe you unless you have a formula.
So if they come to the calculation?
Well, how many people?
Because I walked around the room and they were all working hard on it.
Well,
Yeah.
so you don't want me to move
We're
yet,
just
do you?
singing them.
I just want to see how close they are.
Well, I know that this will be kind of trial by fire. We knew we weren't going to have hours to do this.
Is
Right.
anybody done with their calc?
They're not going to fit it in here.
Okay.
5 more minutes? Am I
5 more minutes?
Till 10:30?
5 minutes? Okay.
5 minutes.
This was always,
10:30.
I hated this when I first started, when you had to do these by hand, because it's like, they take forever.
Are there any questions online?
Uh-oh.
Fun fact,
Fun fact.
I had to calculate my PPD using a .006. I was already not an adjuster by then.
Must be nice.
I was like, when did that change? And he read it, I was like,
Dozens of times.
I suddenly went, wait.
I went, what?
No questions in the
I'm so much older than I thought.
Oh, I know I'm old.
That is exactly what I do. My estimates make it life so easy.
Somebody does that with
Yeah.
their reserves, yeah.
Yeah, Amber. Oh, my girl Amber. She says that's exactly what I do for my estimates. I mean, it makes life so easy, and then you have a rough draft calc for your PPD comes in, and then boom.
Boom.
And boom.
What is it that one guy says? Bam!
Bam.
I actually, in my younger days, used to watch cooking shows, even though I cannot cook. And I always liked the guy, and he's never on anymore. He's probably gone. But remember Justin Wilson? He was the Cajun guy. And he'd say, "Ooh!" Yeah, he had the suspenders. He was my favorite. And then everything he made had cayenne pepper in it. Because then he'd always go, the cayenne pepper. And then you put it in there. It's like, well, that was vanilla ice cream, so that wasn't really where I wanted to put the cayenne pepper.
But it was delicious.
You know, if he made it, huh?
That's how those Cajuns do it.
You know, cayenne pepper. And then he'd go, and a little onion, and some cayenne pepper. My favorite was always Julia Childs, Rosalind. Julia Childs was fun. My favorite Julia Childs story was when she had her show later in her life. She has this lady on, and she's making Irish soda bread. And this woman is on there, and she is kneading this dough.
Oh yeah, she's working it.
And she is sweating like you can't believe. The poor thing is just dying on this dough. And she goes to town this dough, and she does this, and she does that, and she gets it done. And then they, get the one that's already baked, and then Julia says, well, the thing I love about this is it's so easy to make. And then Julia, in the meantime, has been standing there. And I'm thinking to myself, oh, and then the woman gave her a look like, uh-huh. But then she said, well, and it is very low in fat. And Julia said, one of my favorite lines ever, she says, yes, but, you know, I found with the things that are low in fat, you need to put so much butter on them to make them taste good. I always thought, that is Julia.
Did you watch her? Didn't somebody just play her? And
Yeah,
was
yeah,
it good?
Meryl Streep did.
Yeah.
And there was a TV show, too, that was good. She's pretty amazing, actually, when you think about what she did.
She's some good food.
Yeah, some good food. I wonder if she used cayenne pepper. Probably not as much. I had an English grandmother who sounded just like Julia Child.
1 minute.
1 minute. 1 minute. 1 minute, Dougie Fresher. See, I'm dating myself, aren't I?
Well, I mean, at this point, I think we're all
Whom
in
was
the
it?
same,
That was
in the
Grandmaster
same
Flash?
era.
And
I don't
Dougie Fresh?
remember.
Dougie Fresh and, we may have a minute.
Are we gonna be done faster?
Well, I don't
Are
know.
we on time?
Yeah, we're good.
I don't see anything.
We're good. Oh, okay. Ah, okay.
We will be back, yeah.
Okay. We'll have to transfer
Christina.
it.
I'll have, Christy know. Christy will make sure next time. Thank you for telling us the why.
Wonderful. I don't know, I scared her was in the way phone and she said, I thought you had the fact that
I can't believe I drank 3 cracks already. I'm very disappointed in myself.
Okay, for anybody who knows, that's her monster, it's just not really crap.
Yeah,
Oh.
yeah. Yeah, Ann is on camera, video,
Right.
recording. I've had 3 cracks this morning.
Yeah.
I don't think that's the way they say it, though.
No.
I don't.
She
do they?
means energy drinks.
Yeah.
So this is exactly what I do for my estimates, makes life so easy, and then you have to rough draft calculate when you,
I already read it. That was anger.
oh, you did it already?
Yeah,
Oh,
she's
okay.
a star.
And
Her and Tina.
then my reserve note says current calculated estimated value, same, but now I have to charge the new farm. Did you already read all this?
Yeah.
Oh.
You were out dinking to do.
All right, so,
Should we get going?
Yeah,
Okay.
give it another second.
Okay.
Let's see.
So everybody should be done or close to done. So we're gonna go ahead and get going on what we come up with.
So I'm going to put the pieces of the D9 up to see. The first is the logistical information. We have our injured worker's name, date of birth, all that stuff filled in. That's basically the information that I gave you. I did actually put the date of injury correct on this, at least, 5/21 of 2024. We have a left knee, and this person was awarded 6% for the left knee. I stuck with one body part for this purpose. Is everybody
Bunny Wigglesworth.
Bunny Wigglesworth. Bonus points to anybody who knows what that's from.
What did you say?
The name of the claimant is Bunny Wigglesworth.
Bunny Wigglesworth.
Did she marry to Jelly Roll?
No.
Oh,
No.
sorry.
No, I'm going to hold that for now.
You're showing your age there.
Jelly Roll is old?
Jelly Roll. Jelly and Bunny. All right. Whoops. Did we go too far? No. All right. So let's go look. So here's our installment calculations. So we took our 48,1570. We multiplied it by our 0.6. And then we multiplied by 6 to get the 6% body basis, or 6% whole person impairment if you prefer. Or 6%, I don't know, that's good. And we come up with our $173.37 per month. Just a quick note.
So that indicates.
Is that going to indicate a monthly or annual installment if we, if,
It's over 100.
Monthly,
beautiful.
because
I'm
it's
not
over
even an adjuster.
$100.
It's over, yeah, thank you. That was freaky. I was like, yes?
For those in the back, if it's over $100, your monthly rate, then it becomes a monthly installment. If it is under $100, it becomes an annual installment.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Thank you, Vanna.
And then we've converted the monthly rate into an annual rate, and an annual rate into a daily rate. And now we have rates for days. So we have a monthly, annual, and daily rate, which we will need on the next part of the calculation. Also, you see there how it added 70 to the birth date. It's going to do something creative in a minute with the months. And then it just adds the 5 years to show what age you would be. But again, this person is going to qualify for a regular lump sum, not a minimum. Questions about this part? This is a very, very, very important part, because if you mess one of these up, the whole thing's wrong. Wrong! Wrong, wrong. And then you and your calculation buddy are wrong.
So it is times 6, because if you do 6%, you're gonna get $1.73.
Yeah.
So can they take this in a lump sum?
They can.
It breaks it down.
And we're going to
It'll
show
break it
that
down.
in just a second.
Yeah.
They can take this in installments or lump sum. If they elected installments, though, they would get monthly instead of yearly, because it's over 100.
So,
That's just saying 6% of a disability, not 6% a
Yeah, you know,
mathematical number.
the book has a really interesting way that it talks about it, because, 6%, it's like, well, if your entire body working perfectly is 100%, then based on how far you can't lift your arm or can't extend your knee or what you got, they're saying 6% of your body is impaired. They've got some checks and balances in there to make sure you can't go over 100, because if you're 100% disabled, then you're on PT benefits, which we'll be doing later.
But if you're looking at that as a mathematical formula, you're thinking 6% is a number. And that's what you're putting in your calculator, but it is not a number.
that's right.
It is a percentage of disability.
Right.
It's used just as a.
I see what you're saying, yeah. Yeah, that does throw you for a loop. I just picked up what you were laying down.
Annual calculation.
So let me get this, I just wanna clarify. So if somebody makes $4,815 a month, that's what you're saying, right?
Uh-huh,
And they get a 6% whole body,
uh-huh.
Remember, that's their AMW. That's what their monthly wage is.
right?
So that's the
So
work
that's,
comp
I
rate.
mean, that's a decent wage, is what I'm
It's
saying, right?
decent.
That's a decent
It's
wage.
okay.
And they get a 6% PPD,
Uh-huh.
their payout is $2,080?
No.
That's what we would, this is based on, this calculation is telling us, the adjuster, what we would pay to this person if we had to pay them in installments. So if I needed to pay you, if this person, Bunny, said, Nicole, I want you to pay me out till I'm 70, I would pay her every single month, $173, till however long it takes to get to
If you paid
70.
annually, it'd be $2,000 a month.
Correct.
Every day till there's,
It'd be
No,
just a
every
year.
Every year.
Every year till there's
Yes,
70. I
yes.
see.
And we have a ton of claims open for just that. They just stay open, pay the installment.
And your
there's
clients
70.
really love those. They love that their claim's gonna be open for 70 years.
The concept is
Yeah.
that if you actually put that money in the bank at that interest rate that it's being calculated, that lump sum is what you'll have when you turn 70.
That's right.
All right, so So,
It's a breakdown of what that money looks like Sandy said, for over a year or over the monthly installments.
so the first thing that we did was calculated our initial payment, or first payment. That's the one we made a big deal about earlier, or at least I tried to. So we put in our last day of TTD, TPD paid, which in this case was 12/15. So our first payment, the first payment date that goes there is the month in which the PPD is paid. It's a little tricky. I think that I entered a 5/1 as the payment date on this one. Then we have the period of time that's going to be covered by the first payment. That's the part we worked on. 12/16 of 2024, which is the day after TTD, TPD was paid, through 4/30, because we're paying this in May, so we're calculating it through payment in April. If we were issuing the offer today, we would not want to calculate it for payment today. We would want to do it for next month. If the injured worker doesn't submit this until June, we're going to have to recalculate.
For those of you that are new adjusters online and in the room, this part always confused me when I first learned this, because I didn't understand what the first payment was. So if you guys have questions, ask, because we can explain it to you, because it's been a while and I can explain it now. But that first payment, breaking down the days and the months and sometimes the years, especially if something's been on your desk a long time and there's a year involved, that part can be really confusing if you're manually doing it. So ask questions if you need to.
So it's the catch-up part. It's catching us up from the last day of TTD through present day is what it's designed to do. So if you look, what we've done here is we figure out how many days, months, and years is this payment. So if you calculate it from 12/16 to 4/30, how many days, months, years is that? Well, it's no full year because it's less than a year, so that's why there's a 0 in the years. It's 4 months and 16 days. And honestly, if you have to get out a calendar and count them, do it. When you're first doing this, because if you do this wrong and you do 4 months, 15 days, you're going to end up with the wrong amount.
And don't use your wheels for this, because it doesn't include the leap years, and it doesn't always give you the correct dates. So get a calendar out, like Mike said, or GTS, Google it.
Oh, yeah.
What's GTS?
Well, I can't say that.
She can't say it.
Oh.
Google
But
that
It's Google
stuff.
that stuff.
Oh.
Google it. If you don't know the calendar,
Now,
just don't use your wheel, because the wheel is misleading. For
The
those
wheel.
that have wheels.
the wheel will break you.
So what you're saying is we need a leap year wheel and a
Yes,
regular year
yes.
wheel.
That is what we're saying.
Dalton, HMC, no.
Yeah.
Tell Dalton to get it together.
So what we did is, to get the first payment, since we know it's 4 months and 16 days, we went back to our monthly rate that we calculated here, which was the 173.37. And we multiplied that by our 4 months, which gives us the 693.48. And then we did the same thing with the days. We went back and found our daily rate of 570, and we multiplied that by 16 days, and that's where we got the 91.20. Then we added them together and came up with the total of 784.68. So that's going to be the first payment amount.
Should we tell them about the installments? First installments? Okay.
We'll get in there.
Okay.
Well, we can mention here that if you're going to do forced installments, this would be the first one that you would do.
This is your first payment for first installments, this amount right here. Brady?
Question?
Hold on, do we have a mic?
Hold on, let's get a mic to Brady.
Simple question. Here, don't trip on that.
Yeah, I know.
Because she's not gonna walk.
Oh, you can have my mic.
I don't know where it went. Oh.
Okay, so I just wanna make sure, right now, last time this person was paid TTD was that 4 months plus. So I just want, so for clarification, if a person never has restrictions, just go back to the date of injury.
Right.
And they get paid out
Yes.
a daily rate basically up to.
That's correct.
Right, and that's why you could end up with years. Because sometimes you have people that are on restricted duty for quite a long time, then they get the PPD rating, and it's been a long time.
Yeah, that first payment can be big, like Mike said, if it's been, years.
I've actually seen them where the first payment is bigger than the lump sum, but that's rare. Okay, then what we do is then we have to figure out the next set of installments. So there's a period of time, we pick up where our first payment left off, which is 5/1 of 25. And we're trying to get to their 70th birthday, but as I said, it doesn't come out even. So we have 23 years worth between 5/1/25 and 4/30/2048. So we took our yearly total and multiplied it by 23, thus giving us the $47,850.12.
Sorry, just real quick, and I apologize. Can we go back for a second? Because somebody online said I came up with 4 months and 15 days for that part. So can we explain why it's 16 days, just for everybody?
So
We appreciate that person asking.
Yes, thank you for asking.
We have
Did
to-
they use a wheel? How did they get to the number?
How did you guys, you did one too, right? How did you get to that number, Samantha?
no, I know exactly what she did.
Say it out loud.
So what this is,
So when they took the last day of the month minus, and then it doesn't count that one day.
yeah, when you're figuring out,
I used an online website that calculates the days.
so you
You
don't.
gotta add 1 day.
Yeah,
So-
add 1 day.
Here's what you have to do. The full months for this would be January, February, March, and April, right? That's where the 4 months come from. So the part that's the 16 days is from 12/16 to 12/31. And when you're figuring those days, the easiest way to do it that I found is to take the number of days in the month, which is 31, and then you subtract 1 less than the day that's shown. So in this case, you subtract 15.
It's because we work on a,
Or use your hands.
Yeah, I recommend fingers and toes.
Use your hands.
That works if you want to go that
Fingers and
route.
toes
It's 'cause
work.
we're-
That's the best
it's
way.
because workers' comp work, we run on a 7-day calendar. We don't remove weekdays, weekends. It all counts.
It's tricky, and if you figure it out and you went 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, you would get to 16 days.
How many days, months, and years is it until
Right.
I turn 70? So we're never gonna, it has nothing to do with it.
So somebody else says online, when you count it out, I
Well,
got
it's
15
because it
days
counts
as well.
every day. Every day counts in the calculation.
But this particular calculation is. we're
Including the
trying to know
16?
How many days, months, and years.
You're right,
until I
Sandy.
turn
You're right. You're right.
Yeah, it's 16 if you count. You got to count the 6. So
Start at 16.
16, 17, 18, 19, 20,
We're not counting the 16.
21, 22, 23, 24, 25,
Whoever's coming up at 15.
26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 31. There's your 6.
So you count the day of injury.
31
Yeah.
You
minus
count
16.
because we only paid PPD, or we only paid TTD through the 15th. That's why we're picking up on the 16th, and you have to count the 16th because they haven't been paid for that day.
But to answer your question, Christy, yes, you count the date of injury because they don't get paid on the day. I mean, some people get paid on the date of injury, some people don't.
That's
So
right.
if they get
But
paid
yeah.
on the date of injury, you start the next day?
But it says that that's just
But that's the
what it
date of
says
first
though. That's what the form says. Date of injury. So yeah. So
We
that-
use the
that
date
would
of
count.
injury.
And then it would be the day of
We
injury.
wouldn't-
So it
That's
says
what the
the
form
wheel does show 16 days,
Okay.
but when you count it out, I got 15 days as well. So I think Sherry and Samantha, I think you guys are using the day after the 16th. You weren't counting the 16th.
I think that's what happened. Hard to tell with the virtual world, but that's what
Right.
I'm guessing.
We can all see
So
how
let's
it's
say
easy.
it's February and there's 28 days. You count till 28, right?
Only to
Right.
28.
February will jack you up.
Yeah.
And February will jack
So
you
wait,
up.
Samantha said, can you see my snapshot? Let's see.
Yeah.
So she did start date 12/16, count days, end date 4/30 of 25,
When you use those calculators online, you don't know always whether they're counting the first day or not.
Oh, so Samantha, I think you started at 12/16/24, it's supposed to be 12/15/24.
They're not counting
She's right.
Oh, she's
whatever
right.
calculator
But we
she's
don't know
using.
we don't know if they're counting the first
Yeah,
day as
see,
day
it-
one, or
it-
they're counting the days
We,
from.
We don't
Some of those things, and I think that's what it is, the one that she's using doesn't count the day that she puts in as the start date. That one's saying it's from there.
I see.
So it's not counting the day that they started it on the thing that she's got screenshotted, I think.
I see.
And that's why I said the easiest way to do it for me was always take the number of days in the month and subtract one less than what you're showing there. So, or subtract a number and then add one.
So start from that date and start counting with your
It's
fingers.
tricky.
Let's just.
Or you can do that, or literally I have to just triple check, gotten a calendar, and just done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
yes.
And I know it
sometimes
sounds
it's easier.
silly, but honest, I've done many calculations where I've literally
I've counted too.
had to
We-
count.
We all count.
Oh, look. Samantha, hold on.
Right now, I have 10 toes, 10 fingers, I'm grateful.
So Samantha, on your thing, I guess there's a include.
End date
Include the start
calculation.
date. Include end date and calculation. I can't go up, it's a screenshot. Oh, it does?
And that date is right, because we would not start it here,
Uh-uh.
because she was paid.
No, it's the day after.
Right, this is right.
Yeah, this is right. Yeah, it's
Yeah, she did.
it's tricky. And so that's why you use your calculation, buddy. Make sure that you're and like I said, if we got into this discussion, like say I was Samantha's calculation buddy, and she's like, no, it's 15. I'm like, no, it's 16. We literally could get out the calendar and count the days just to verify, what was going
So
on.
then always double check.
Yeah, you don't ever want to just,
So I would just write it would be 12/16 to,
Yeah.
right, so yes,
yeah. And so
correct, Samantha.
that's our first payment date, and then we have the 23 years.
Good question and good topic to discuss.
No, and what that is
With
exactly,
simple errors,
that's where the mistakes
That
come
can
in.
totally mess it up. It could totally
Could mess
derail
the
your
whole
whole
thing up for sure.
calculation, yeah.
It's going to be wrong. You're just not going to have the right total.
Yeah.
Um,
Wait till leap year.
yeah, and then when leap years are there,
Oh, yeah.
don't forget.
Leap year's in February.
So, does anybody have any questions about how they came up with the number of years? That's the full years.
Well,
So
just
then,
go through it.
that leaves us with a little teeny piece left.
Oh, you just multiply them, right? The
Yeah,
year.
23 times the yearly total.
784.
I don't remember what the year
It
was.
goes back to the annual amount that we
Oh,
initially
2000,
started with,
2000.
times 23
It was
years is that
2080.44 was the annual rate.
Yep.
So 2080.44 times 23 gives us the $47,850.12.
I see.
Uh-huh.
So that's the total PPD?
No,
Not, we're still doing installments.
we're not there yet.
Shut up, Chrissy. Okay.
So,
We're just calculating how much money
We're
we'll
just,
get till
we're just getting the preliminary numbers together at this point.
so now, we've got this little piece left over. We've got from 5/1 to the 70th birthday, or the day before, actually, it's 8/1/2048. So that is calculated as 3 months and 1 day, which again is going to be confusing to some because of the fact of what we just talked about. But if you count it, you're going to find out it's full months, plus then you have the 1 extra day. So we've multiplied that out, got 520.11 and 570 for a total of 525.81. And so if you then take the first payment, all the yearly payments, and the last payment, your total for installments, if you took the PPD in installments, excuse me, when you were all done, you would have collected $49,160.61
Monthly?
No,
total.
Till you're age 70.
That's
Today,
all- yep.
Till the day before your 70th birthday.
Now, this guy would be collecting this for 23
23
and,
years.
and change, yeah.
23 years, 3 months and a day.
Yeah, so that's why most people don't take installments.
Although the ones that do make the client super happy, because now they have to leave that claim open for 23 years.
3 months in a day.
3 months in a day.
I
Some people do
finally,
it just for spite. Most of mine are for spite, they get $1.20 a day and, $27 a month. And it's open till 2050.
I finally got to close one that finished.
Well, I don't know, I
It
feel
had been
like
years.
$27 a month is a slap in the face for, I don't know, that's just,
All
Most
right,
people
so-
don't, but some do.
yeah.
The next section is the minimum lump sum. We calculate this no matter what, just to make sure that the amount we came up with is not less than that. The minimum lump sum is fairly simple. You just plug and play, and you get the 14,447.10. We're going to compare that in a minute to what we calculate as our lump sum to see if they get.
You cannot add a percentage. That percentage is just telling you a percentage of disability. It's not used for mathematical purposes.
Right.
So that's the lump sum they can get up front and then
No.
installments?
No, that's for people over 65.
This is only going to apply to people over 65.
Age 70.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh.
because if you're 70, you don't want to wait 23 years. Because, 23 years wouldn't
Well,
play.
you can't, right?
You can't, you don't,
Well,
you may
you-
not have it. You may not have that time. So we tell them they have to take the minimum lump sum.
And they don't get installments. All right, so,
And one of the things I was gonna say on that particular one, it's important that you do that because it's not always at 65. It's not always at 66. Sometimes it's at 63. Sometimes it's at 65. So you always have to do the minimum
Yeah.
lump sum. So when you get to the next portion, you can go, okay, wait, they would have got more on a minimum, and then the minimum is always paid. That's the least amount in a lump sum this gentleman's gonna get.
right.
Now, are they allowed to take a minimum lump sum at any time, whether they're 18 or whether they're 22?
No.
No.
Well,
No, but it's gonna be,
Well, I mean, I suppose if they want
Kind
to,
of.
we'll count it as a settlement, I guess. We'll run it through the AO and do it as a
stip.
stip.
We'll do a
But I don't think
stip.
that'll happen.
Brady's face.
No, they can't.
The closer you are to 70, the less money you're gonna get, so they have to have some sort of calculation to determine that. Obviously, if I'm 18, I'm gonna get $500,000, why would I take 14,000?
Christy,
Yeah, it'll
I
make
think-
sense, Christy, in the
I
next
think I know what your
one.
question is.
No, I
You can,
understand.
they have a choice. They have a choice.
25% and that whole.
They can either take a lump sum
Oh, it's coming.
or they can take the installments till 70.
I see.
So they have a choice. Most people take the lump sum.
Now, here's why, this will help you, Christy, I think, because the first thing that the calculation for the lump sum does is it figures out the years and months that the injured worker is so we can get the right factor. Now, this is tricky, so I want to show you how it's done. So if you notice, what they'll do is they'll put in the effective date of the award, which is the month you're going to pay it. Okay, so here we have 2025-5, because we're going to pay it in May. We need to know exactly how old the injured worker will be in that month based on his date of birth. So what we do is we put in the year of his birth and the month of his birth there. And then we do subtraction, but we do subtraction of months, which is different than you're used to. So when you go to subtract 5 and you go to subtract 8 from that, you're like, wait,
It's a negative.
I don't get that. So you have to borrow from the years column. Now we're used to borrowing in groups of 10, and I've seen this messed up many, many times, but you can't borrow in groups of 10 because there are 12
Months in a year.
months in a year. So what effectively will happen is this will become 2024, and that will become 17
17.
because you're
adding
adding 12 months. It seems like such a obvious thing, and yet, I mean,
Everybody messes this up.
it gets messed up all the time. And everybody out there with the calculation spreadsheet is going, I never mess it up.
Can those of you online or in the room that are newer adjusters, please know that it's okay to ask questions here because this is a very hard thing to learn. It's easy now that we've been doing it for years, but when you first are learning this, you're like, what? What are you talking
The
about?
biggest thing is to remember that when you take you need more months here in order to subtract the 8. So you have to borrow them from the years. And when you do that, you got to do it in 12. Because a year is 12 months.
For those online, and here in the room, if you subtract the 5 from the 8, you're going to get a negative. So you have to add your year to the top number to be able to get a whole number from that subtraction.
So when we added the 12 months, we came up with 17 months. Now we can subtract the 8 and get the 9 months here. So that's there. Then that left this as 2024 because we borrowed one of the years. And then when you subtract 1978 from 2024, you get 46. So this injured worker in May of this year will be 46 years and 9 months old. And this part is tricky. Again, like I said, I mean, we could spend a lot of time, but you have a question?
So you only do that if you have a smaller top number.
Yes.
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 So it's just kind of like,
Yeah. You
That's
only
right.
have to do that if you have a smaller number on top. If it was reversed, we could just subtract it and
Yes.
we wouldn't have to borrow.
But that's where it gets confusing, because
So
if you can't do a flush subtraction on that and get a whole number, you need to borrow years on the extra year. You need to borrow the year.
You add the 12 and take away the 12 on the other side.
Question or comment?
This is where that date website that Chrissy had on, it will give you the year and the month, you can probably put those ranges in.
Okay. Maybe they could share that website
Yeah.
in chat.
What is that website?
Time and date.
Dateandtime.com.
No?
Can you just text it to me? Share me the link and I'll share it on here. But I think that's what she's using too, and it came up incorrect for the one.
So it'd be 12 here
So let's
minus
put it
8.
this way, use it as a tool,
It'd be
but
12
do the
plus the 5,
calculation.
so it'd be 17.
Or 17 minus 8 is 9.
Have your buddy check
And
it.
then that turns that into
And this
2024.
calculation sheet does that for us.
Yeah, the spreadsheet.
The spreadsheet, we won't say that, but yeah.
Well,
Well, we
and
just
yeah,
said that.
it's tricky, and if we've got resources out there, you just have to make sure it's not doing what we had happen earlier where it's cutting off the day. But if you can get it to where you can use it for that, that's a wonderful thing. Because this math confuses people a lot. It's because of the borrowing 12 months thing that messes people up, but that's where you get it.
But you gotta have it so you get to the factor.
Yeah, those of you using the Excel spreadsheet, it does it for you. It'll take the year for you. It'll borrow the year for you.
And yeah, and the reason we need that exact thing is because of the actuarial table that you then use to come up with the factor. The factor, I like it. It's the S factor. The factor. Did you want to add?
I also want to point out, you have to put like the 525 on each line, otherwise your dates are all messed up. It gives you like a 1925 year.
Oh, okay.
That I learned when I first started doing it that way. And for birthday too.
Yeah. If you don't do your years right, you'll get the wrong factor. So if you're off a month, your factor's wrong. Again, it's wrong. So if you happen to have your actuarial table in front of you, I know Christy said there was some in the back. You can go down 46 years. You can move over to the 9th month, which is actually 10 spots over because there's a 0. You'll see the factor is 173.943. Now, Nicole has them all memorized, of course.
Oh, I don't.
So she doesn't have to worry about this. But for the rest of us, we need the table. And I would say that the majority of the mistakes I see now with people using the spreadsheet, that's exactly what it is. They got the wrong factor. We catch that all the time. So if you are a calculation buddy, make sure you're checking the factor. Make sure you have the correct factor, or you will be
Factored.
you will be fractured factor. And if the fractured factor, never mind. I can't think of
All kinds
enough
of
things
stuff.
that rhyme with that.
Just random.
Yeah, I had to try to explain what this factor was to an injured worker one time that was really challenging. Because I'm like, it's a thing. that you have to.
It's a whole, my favorite thing is, it's a whole formula. It's really
I said
complicated.
smarter people than me came up with that.
It's just a whole, like,
So,
and you'd be surprised, they go, okay, all right, okay.
Per DIR.
I didn't make it up, someone else smarter than me made it up, and I just,
yeah,
We just plug the numbers in.
yeah. It's that thing that they were talking about earlier about the, what did you call it? The thing, the factor, yeah. All right, so when you do the math there, you're going to come up with $30,156.50. That is your lump sum, but
There's always a but.
you have to add that first payment in. That is the part in the second part of the graph. So now we're going to go back and pick up the first payment that we calculated oh so many years ago, it seems. Back here.
Number 3.
Oops, yeah, number 3, the 784.68. So if we move into where we were, here's the 784.68.
And it tells you from number 11.
Yes, it says here, insert sum of 3, add to the sum of 11. Fold slot A. This is why I don't put things together. All right, so when we add the $30,156.50 to the $784.68, we get $30,941.18. We compare that to the minimum lump sum. It's clearly bigger. So that's the one they get. And then there's a place where you can subtract all of the plethora of things that you might have, an overpayment, previous payment, you know, whatever you've got. In this case, we didn't have any, so this is actually the lump sum we would offer. If the injured worker signs their election of method in May, and we pay this in May, this is the amount they will get. If they wait till June,
Goes up.
recalculate it, and you're going to get a different amount of first payment,
It'll be
a
little higher.
different lump sum, and a different total.
Why would they wait till May, June?
Because they
They
can't.
lost
They
the
may.
paperwork.
I didn't get it.
You know, it's funny. I always figured, right, that if I'm about to get 30 grand, I'm like running with that paperwork. I'm like, 30 grand?
I didn't get it.
How do I get this
Check
stuff
my mail.
fastest? But it's amazing. It is amazing how many people just don't do it. I have an injured worker, and we would call them, and they would say, I just forgot. It's 30 grand, dude. You forgot? I guess they must have a lot of money. 'Cause
We could drink a lot and talk about the excuses and why they didn't sign it. We could, because my wife took it, who do I have, you know, there's thousands.
I moved and didn't give you my new address.
Now, sometimes it's because there's disputed stuff going on. Like if they're disputing the amounts, you might see it late because it's
Because you
in
didn't have a PPD.
litigation process. And then that would make it late. But it's amazing to me how many people just don't turn it in.
Sometimes they're insulted by it, and they're like, and just don't put it out.
And this is the one, I get a lot of them where they call me up and they're like, yeah, you know, I got your paperwork. I'll do it for $35,000. And that's when you have to go through the whole thing and say, okay, this is not
Not
that
negotiable.
kind of thing.
So let's make a deal.
This is not, it's not a settlement, it's not a negotiation, it's not a stipulated agreement. This is a calculated benefit.
Yeah.
And that's when, yeah, I had one lady and she was just like, no, I'm not signing for less than 35 in this case. And I was like, okay.
All right, we'll start
Guess
your
what?
first
First installment's for you.
Send you a check for $784, and then after, we're gonna send you a check every month
For $137. That's
When
right.
you refuse to sign it, we're gonna send it to the,
Payment rule.
Ooh, don't do that.
Ooh, that's dirty.
So they take this 30,000, I'm assuming I'm probably getting ahead of myself.
Tax free.
Sandy's nerding out right now.
Okay. Then obviously the attorney gets their cut too out of that chunk.
Uh-huh.
If there's an
72%.
attorney, if there's an attorney, right? So they get that. And then, what?
Yeah.
Well, no, so I'm just.
No, you're right. She just said 72%, which is why they're
No,
laughing.
it's not 72%.
That's
They're not laughing at you,
That's
they're
a
laughing
total,
at.
honey.
So then after that, are we gonna go through like their monthly payments after that, or is there?
No, if they take, in this case, because it's less than 30% disability, it's only 6. If they take this lump sum, that's all, it's done. We're gonna close the claim,
Oh, that's it.
unless there's rehab
Unless
involved.
there's rehab.
But,
Voc rehab.
we'll voc rehab. But that's the thing. Now,
And then
they,
what, after voc rehab, you do another calculation?
My hell to the no.
no.
Or you just give them a voc rehab?
Each are
buyout
totally
basis?
separate. So voc rehab and PPD, totally
Yeah.
separate benefits. Not to cross paths. They're separate.
And the only thing they have together is that the percentage of PPD tells you how long of a rehab program you can have. That's the only thing it does.
If they don't have transport.
What's that?
If they do not have transport.
Yeah, there's a lot, yeah, but
So
you,
this is a 46-year-old dude, 47-year-old dude, or guy, girl, whatever, making high wage earners? Is 48 a
Not
high
really.
wage earner?
It's like mid.
No, that's not a high wage
It's
earner?
mid.
Okay.
nah, cause max I think was 7,000
With the
something.
She's probably making like 26 bucks an hour.
They get 30,000.
Say again?
With a 6% PPD and they get 30,000.
Right, so it's what, about $5,000 more?
I thought it was 7,000.
It changes it based on
Based
age,
on
wage.
Age, wage, and percentage.
Age and wage.
But also the tables change every July.
The actuary table?
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And every July, when they put out a new actuarial
Depends
number,
on the economy.
Oh, wow.
sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down.
So based on our president is how the.
One year,
Well, based on our economy.
1 year it jumped way up.
Okay, we're running out of time. Okay,
Okay.
we gotta go. We gotta keep going.
Questions.
That's okay.
Sorry, folks.
Your questions are
So
probably
then,
their
all we
questions.
have
That's
is
okay.
the end. All I did was put that up there so that you could see that we have to sign it. Your your calculation buddy needs to sign it. Okay, in the interest of time, the D9B, the difference on this is the form you use for for over 30%, because you're only allowed to take 30% in a lump sum. If you get more than that as a percentage of disability, you're going to get to elect to take up to the 30 in lump sum, and then you'll have some leftover installments. So you can this is where you can get both. I don't think we're going to have time to stop and calculate this, so I'll just
Talk it.
we're just going to go through it. The 9B form has the same thing on the top, same installment calculation. Essentially, the first payment is going to be the same. The first payment is going to be paid at the full percentage. Then we have the minimum lump sum, which applies here too. Then we have the calculation, which is slightly different, and the same thing at the bottom. Now I'm going to just go ahead. This page right here is going to be the most confusing page, I think, in the whole day, because when you figure the 30% PPD, there's two choices the injured worker is going to have. Let's say they have 35% PPD, which we're going to look at in just a second. What's that?
And no attorney.
Yeah, yeah. So the 35% PPD, they have two choices. They can take all 35% in installments if they want to. They can take the whole thing as 35% and then get installments till they're 70. Or they can take 30% of that in a lump sum and then have 5% left over that they'll get as installments. Does that make sense? So they still get an election. It's just that, but when you're calculating this, you have to calculate it for both things. So you have to calculate a 35% installment in case they take the whole thing in installments. Then you have to calculate a 30% lump sum. And if they take that option, you also have to calculate a 5% installment because that's the part that they'll have tailing over. So it's an extra calculation. And so essentially, you're going to use both forms 9A and 9B to make that happen. And that's where people get tricky. So this here, I kind of tried to put that down, but it ended up sounding like the IRS. So I mean, we're going to calculate the installments for the full PPD percentage on the 9A. Then we're going to calculate the leftover percentage, the 5% in this case, on the 9B. We're going to calculate the lump sum on the 9B. And then depending on what they pick, you're going to use the numbers from 9A or 9B. And so the minimum lump sum, by the way, you just pay the whole thing. No installments for the full amount. So, woohoo, fun we're having. So let's walk through the calculations. This was going to be your challenge. It's exactly the same PPD we just did, only I changed the percentage to make it at 35% for lumbar spine. So now Bunny has got a jacked up back. And the installments are calculated exactly the same way on Form 9A. Okay? The only difference is instead of the 6%, you're now doing it times 35, which when you're doing the math is not a percent, as Sandy pointed out. But that's going to give you these differing amounts. So that's exactly what you did on the last one, just instead of 6, it's 35. Then you're going to go to Form 9B, and you're going to do the same installment calculation, but for only 5%.
Because you paid the 30 in a lump sum on the A.
Oh, gotcha.
Because they'll need this one if they choose the lump sum.
Right.
The previous one was if they choose installments. This one is if they choose the lump sum. So you have to do them both.
What?
Go back real quick.
So this one is 35, it's the whole thing.
Still get $1,000 a month if they choose it in monthly.
Right,
Uh-huh.
1,000 a month till they are 70.
Or 12,000 a year, check.
You can't do annual for that much, you would do monthly.
Oh,
It's just because it's over $100.
Anything over 100.
Anything over $100 we do as monthly installments. If it was less, then we would do less. So for example, in this one, yeah, that's not optional.
gotcha.
And that's for the actuary people.
Uh-huh.
Now, if they pass away,
But
that's
That's
it?
it.
I get to
Bye.
keep your money?
So that money doesn't go
That's
to
it.
like family,
That's it.
kids, nothing?
Stop
Nope.
at the injured worker. It's not a death benefit, it's not PTD.
Transferable benefit.
Yeah.
Although
So
there's
they
not a
would kind of
amount
be
for that.
stupid not to take the lump sum and then get the cheaper of the amount later.
Well, if I'm 40 years old, I'd like to have $1,000 a month.
Well, it would be nice, but wouldn't it be nicer to have 15 grand up front? And then.
It depends.
Well, what if
Depends
I
on your
want my
choice.
to be 70?
What if you die tomorrow? You die.
Bradley?
Oh, Bradley,
Brady.
Brady, I mean.
If a person dies before their installment payments are paid out, their surviving spouse or children will actually be entitled to receive whatever the remainder of the lump sum would be. 495
No.
1B.
you'd have to,
495. It says it in the statutes. I'll read it to you.
So if they pass away, like before they get their first check? Oh, you're talking about the postmortem PPD.
Are you talking about no, so 1B, except as otherwise provided in NR 616C380, which is if there's a dispute and there's a motion for stay. An award for a permanent partial disability award may be paid in lump sum under the following conditions. B, the spouse, or in the absence of the spouse, any dependent child of a deceased claimant injured 505, so it's not a claim, is entitled to a lump sum equal to the present value of the deceased claimant's undisbursed award.
that's for postmortem.
So if I had a surgery and I went, and I was gonna get a PPD, but I died, I have to do a postmortem PPD and give it to the family.
No, that's the deceased claimant, I mean, they have now died.
Right, that's what she's saying.
If-
She's saying that if I have surgery and we're in the process and I die and I haven't elected it, or I haven't had a PPD yet, and I
If
die,
you haven't had a PPD yet, then there's.
No, you have to give them a PPD.
you have to give them a PPD.
We argued that same thing.
Yeah, I
Once
would
they elect, it can't be transferred to a.
I would say
family
this.
member.
Let's table that one for now, just
Hold on,
because
hold on.
we're gonna run out of time.
Okay.
And then they die.
No,
And it's
That's what that statute is saying.
no.
I promise you it's not.
I promise
We promised to
youngins.
we closed the plan.
We're gonna litigate it.
And that's,
We'll see this bill introduced next legislative session from Brady.
yeah, here it comes. All right, so,
I appreciate it though. I do. That's why I like you guys coming. That's right.
so we've got this installment set, and I don't mean to rush, because it's a really good topic to talk about. It's just we're gonna run out of time, and then they're gonna yell at me. And they always yell at me.
You like that part.
So lump sum calculation, or excuse me, the first payment calculation is here. We do the first payment the exact same way we did before. We just use the entire percentage, because the catch-up part, we pay the full percentage. That's not the part where we're electing the lump sum or the installments. So in this case, because it's a very much 35%, our total first payment is $4,576.88. And then our 23-year payment would be based on the 5%, because this part's going to be for the lump sum. And that's where the $39,873.72 comes from. And then you've got the little straggler at the end for the few months that you have left. And if you add the first payment, which is at 35, and these two, which are at 5, you end up with the $44,888.76.
A month?
No,
No,
that's the installment.
that's the monthly installment. So, now, let's get to the lump sum, and then I think it'll tie together. Oh, here's the minimum lump sum. So at a minimum, you're going to get $84,274.75. Yep. Okay. But on ours,
My understanding is that's the only time that you can't pay that in a lump sum, a 35% in a lump sum,
it's
is when
minimum.
it's a minimum.
Mhm.
Well,
Yes.
I have a 34% right now, and the guy's 69. I just offer that minimum and we're done.
That's it.
Yep.
And the attorney will let you know about it too. Yeah.
Yeah,
Because
it's
we've had calls from the attorneys going, just give us the lump sum. And we're like, and the adjuster's looking at it going, well, I have 30, I can only offer the 30 lump sum, and then I have to roll it over, and they're like, yeah, but the lump sums, just give us the lump sum. And we're like, okay. So you have to just look at it. Yep, yeah.
good question. All right, so we did the same calculation on the top here.
Sue has a
Oh,
question.
I'm so sorry.
Sue Hare has a question.
Oh, I just didn't see you because I'm blind.
So am I. We both come from the SIS days, so.
Yeah,
we're
we've
trying
got no
to figure out our
eyesight left.
ages.
We've been doing too much.
Right. Can you address the issue when a installment was originally elected, and then later on they decide they wanted the remaining in a lump sum?
Ooh, that's a good one, Sue Hare.
Yeah. There's
They eventually decide they don't want
There's
the $100
actually
a month.
two ways to
Yeah.
do it from a calculation standpoint. The one way is you can take the original, so you basically redo this, but you subtract what you've already paid. So that's the way that most people do it. In fact, we'll leave it at that for now, because
Yeah, because they can't,
I don't want to.
It's super complicated.
If they elect it, and I've had people call me and say, hey, look, my wife left me everything, and then can I get a lump sum? You can recalculate it to a lump sum if you apply correctly, because to recalculate it, you gotta take what you already paid off, you gotta calculate the current day, and all of that stuff, and pay it out in lump sum.
And you're gonna, yeah.
Never above 30, but
And you're going to use the original actuarial factor and all that when you calculate it.
Boy, I thought you said never above 30, but she is a 34.
But it's a minimum.
Because it's the minimum.
there's always that exception, because he's 69.
He's not gonna take the installment anyways.
Is there a cutoff, 65 or older? What
Well,
is
that's
it?
why we said you
Ish.
have to do the minimum all the time, is because, for example, I'm 63, so if you do mine comes up sometimes as a minimum, because I'm 60, whatever, way different. So it's usually close to 70. It's usually 65, 66, 67, 68. But you always have to calculate that minimum lump sum because if they're in their 60s, there might be an issue, and that's the greatest amount of money you can provide.
So what if you had a 55% disability? Could you pay them out that?
Yep.
At 62
Yes.
or 65?
Yes.
Yes.
If, at the minimum, but if at the minimum, you
What
can't.
if they were 59?
No.
So anything over
Not-
60?
Well, it's really over 65.
It
65.
tells you, the calculation will speak to you by the
Yes.
numbers. It will tell you which one is going to
That's
be
why you
paid.
can't skip calculating.
Yeah.
Right,
You
and
have to
so what,
calculate everything on that.
what you
But
do
it's
is,
always whatever benefits the injured worker.
yeah, what you do is you calculate the minimum lump sum as well as the regular lump sum, and then you just pick the one that's bigger. That'll tell you if they qualify. And like,
Is there that sweet number of minimum? No.
It depends on all the factors,
the math gets weird, and
count
so
for
it
that.
just,
This is so weird.
yeah,
But the math will tell you.
The math tells you which one applies.
yeah. We had a question, did you have a question or a comment?
Sorry.
She had a question there.
So my question is, does the actual factor differentiate between men and women? And if so,
No.
why?
No,
No.
it's based on whole person
It's
only.
a good
The
question.
question was, do the factors just have a different for men versus women? And the answer is no, which is a great question because women and men have different age anticipations. So,
Right, and I noted that there were, this is whether you were male or female on the form, so.
Right.
Right, which is silly.
good point.
Yeah, it's a good question.
Yeah, and it's a really good question. It doesn't differentiate.
No,
All right, so
Moving on.
let's talk about a little bit about PPD offers. When,
BFAC, you got 3 minutes.
what?
BFAC, you got 3 minutes.
Yeah, we have, do we need to
What,
talk
we don't
about
have 3
this?
minutes? Calm
We
down,
got
we got.
PTD.
We still have to talk
Oh,
about PTD.
we're gonna be all right. PTD's real short.
It's, PTD is quick. It's okay.
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
We didn't wanna
I thought
talk
you
about
meant I had 3 minutes left to do the whole thing.
No, we
Talk
got
about the
30
percent calculations.
Huh?
You didn't want to
30
talk about the
minutes left.
calculation?
And then we got 5
We
minutes.
just did, didn't we?
for-
Oh,
Why don't let Ross talk about PTD?
yeah, we'll let you do PTD, but. I'm sorry, I think I skipped over the calculation here. So, it's the same sort of formula that we did before. You have it's the same math to come up with the number of years. You still have to look at the actuarial table, which is the same, 173,943. The difference, of course, is your monthly rate is based on a 30% PPD, because you've got 30% that we're taking in a lump sum. And so then we've got the lump sum part plus the initial payment gives us our total. No prior payments. If in Suhair's example, if we were doing this and they'd gotten installments for years, we would just take that out right here. And then we would end up with our total. So in this case, with the 35% PPD, this person can elect a lump sum. They're going to get $155,355.89 now. And then they're going to get $144.47 a month till they're 70.
So 2048.
And that's why we use both forms. Or they're going to get they're going to get that $4,007, the first payment amount, $4,576.88 now, and take the entire 35 in a lumps or in installments, which would be $1,011.30 a month. So those are their two choices. You get $155,000 now or $1,000 a year or a month.
What are you taking, Christine?
I'm taking all the money now. Like, I'm not done money now tomorrow.
Most people do.
Most people do.
Unless you're old.
And I don't know.
Unless you're old, that would be more of a reason to take all the money.
No,
You know what?
because then you don't get paid.
You know, I recently saw the attorney and the injured worker work out a deal. So the injured worker took it in lump sum and paid cash to the attorney for their lien. Oh,
What do you mean? Just
So-
a lump sum, they're gonna take the check anyway.
they,
Don't the check get sent
Not-
to the attorney?
Well,
no,
if I
that's
were-
what I'm saying, they worked it out, where they took 155,000, they didn't take the lump sum, they took the $1,000 a month. But there's a lien on the file from the attorney, because they worked on the attorney, so whatever that lien is, the injured worker paid it cash, paid off his attorney, and then
they
collects
kept
the
it
$1,000.
$1,000 a month.
Right, but a lot of times
The
what
guy
you
just
really
had
see
fucking
is, right,
the guy just had $70,000 laying around to give his attorney.
you know what, in my world where I am now, I have injured workers,
Hmm.
I have injured worker goes, oh, you're gonna take a 10% offset? No, let me just pay that PPD back. And they write the whole check for the PPD back, and then they don't take the 10% off their firm total.
Yeah.
It's an amazing world we live in.
Yeah, I don't get that. I don't have that kind of cash.
Maybe I should be a firefighter? Is
Uh,
that how that
mm.
works?
All right, any questions about what we've done here? This is one of those things that when you go to do it, because you won't get as many over 30s as, you don't get a lot of those, you may have to ask questions, get your calculation buddy involved. Chrissy's gonna put our emails up there so you can always let us know. Because I know what happens to me is, it makes sense now, and then I don't get one of these for 4 months, and then I get one and I'm like, what did they say? Question?
Yeah, so,
Go ahead.
can you clarify on the date? Can you clarify on the date they are required to sign? I believe it's like a 20-day grace period before
Oh, yeah.
the,
Yeah.
like, calculations get, like, readjusted.
Go ahead.
Like, when we receive determination or like, EOMs, when exactly do we need to get that signed before they get recalculated?
20 days.
So let me, I think your question is two-part. Is it, how we calculate the 20 days from the EOM? Is that one of the questions? Okay. So from the date they signed it, not the date we received it. So attention adjusters, it's not from the date you received the EOM, it's from the date they signed it that the 20 days starts. Okay, and same with voc rehab, but we're not talking about that today. With PPDs, we can pay the EOM, we can pay it out. We can pay it before the 20 days. We do pay it before the 20 days. But they have 20 days to come back and say, just kidding, I don't want to do this. So voc rehab buyouts, they have to be paid on the 20th day. You cannot pay it before the 20th day. But PPDs were a little bit more lax on it, because normally it's coming from an attorney, and the attorney has advised his client, her client, and usually there isn't backsplash on that. It's usually okay to pay.
In my 942 years, I've never had a PPD have that problem with the PPD. Ever. Oh, look, 1,800 years between me and Sandy. Never had a problem with that. So that one doesn't come up very
Yeah,
often.
it's rare, but your date starts from the day they signed it. And that is also the date you have to look at for the month they elected to make sure you don't have to calculate that PPD. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, like, what if it's like an adjuster, I mean, it happens to everyone, super backed up, 2 months, 3 months past, de facto, litigation.
Yeah, that shouldn't be happening.
Like, is that something that will get calculated in?
That would be payment plus interest.
Yeah, so we would pay, so let's say that the adjuster doesn't pay it for 3 months.
And you're in litigation.
And you're in litigation now because they didn't pay it, and you have a signed EOM on there. When they do pay it, they now have to recalculate that and also pay you interest on the fact that they didn't pay it within the 20 days.
Because it's been ordered through litigation.
And that interest form is fun, so.
Now, what will happen is typically what you will get, if there is a dispute about the PPD amount because of the percentage, say that, there's a dispute, we've got a 5% award and it's being,
And Haggerty's 25.
yeah, and there's another one that's 25. What we will do in those cases is pay the undisputed portion.
Sorry.
So we'll pay the 5% up front, and then the rest of it, we'll wait for the litigation. So you'll pay the undisputed portion of the award, meaning the part we all agree on, and then you'll go back, and that again would be deducted here under the previous payments. And you see that a lot.
On line
And remember, for those of you putting things in abeyance, you only have 75 days to readdress that abeyance. You can't just let it be in abeyance and forget about it.
That's not what they said at the educational conference the other day.
What'd they
It's-
say?
They said that, I think it was Leslie, she said yes, but if you're still having issues, then it's just letting them know that it's in abeyance, but you can continue to do whatever you need to do until you resolve the issue.
Okay, I
That needs to
still,
be clarified.
if you guys are holding something in abeyance
That's
because
what I
you
read
need
the law
prior
said.
medicals on something, for the love of everything, please get your prior medicals before you start fighting your PPDs. I mean, medicals can take forever, so you should be asking, when you know that there's knowledge of a prior medical, that's why I said last time we trained, get your prior medicals going before, while you're in treatment, while this person's going through their claim, because those priors take a while. And if you're holding it because of an abeyance issue with the priors,
You're gonna
like,
lose your court.
we're gonna lose. You're all gonna lose that. It's gonna look bad. It's just holding things up. Brady?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, I can't speak for all claimants attorneys, but I do agree with Rosalind. The regulation is a plan that can be reasonably accomplished within 75 days. And if it can't be, then that can go a little bit longer.
Issue another determination.
I think it's still, right.
What Nicole is telling though, make sure you are actually doing something. If you say, we're gonna get these records, and then you do nothing for 75 days, yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna file an appeal,
Right.
the HO and the AOs are gonna say, no, you
Offer
gotta award
it.
them.
It's also a
Make
benefit
sure
penalty.
you're documenting that you're actually trying. And then
Right.
possibly
That's 75 days, I mean, you actually have to be actively.
That's right.
pursuing it,
Right.
That's right.
But 75 days isn't your cutoff.
Right, and
If-
that's exactly what Leslie
But I
said.
would say, as a compliance person,
It's
Sandy,
not a cutoff.
I would say that at 75 days, if I cannot extend that offer because of whatever's going on in the background, I need to let everybody know in writing
Correct.
why we're not doing it. And continue that communication, because people will just sit on it, and I've seen it where it just sits, and then everyone's like, what's going on with this abeyance? And then the client's wondering what's going on. Just be communicative with your people and everybody involved so that you're not finding yourself in a position, because we've been finding lots of positions, and I don't want you guys to be in that.
So, again, those are internal procedures that you have as a compliance officer to make sure your adjusters are moving things along. But the statute says
Right.
that 75 days is not a deadline. But I absolutely agree with you. You can't just sit on something and do nothing because he's gonna win all day.
Right.
So, when we do a PPD offer, I've listed there the things that you need to include in the PPD offer when you send it out. There's a whole bunch of forms. You gotta send the calculations on the 9A and B. You gotta send the D10, which is the election of method. You gotta send a D11. That's actually, in the old days, you used to send the election of method, and then when the person came in to pay it, they would sign the reaffirmation. Now, because we don't do that, we just do them both at the offer. So you get the D10. By the way, the D10, A or B, the A is for less than 30, B is for more than 30. Then you have your D12A, which is your appeal form. Your D13, which is a whole spiel about reopening the claim. You also need to send a copy of the PPD report that the doctor gave you so they can review it and see what it was. And then we've been under a little debate on this last one, but a lot of people are sending the D31 at the same time. I'm going to hold that for
I
now.
appreciate you holding that, because why the hell would I give them appeal rights again?
Well,
Right.
and there, I think
I'm
we're
just
gonna
curious.
hold that
Yeah,
for
I
now.
know, all day long.
Um,
I'm gonna send appeal rights again.
do you want to do this, or do you want me to just go ahead?
Yeah, keep going, I'll
Yeah, you're fine.
All right,
All right.
just so that because we're running out of time,
That's
I'm
fine.
gonna switch ahead to PTD. This one, she wants me to go ahead.
Does she want this?
She wants me to do it.
Okay.
Everybody can hear me.
So, a couple of key things about PTD benefits. It's paid monthly. We thought that was easy, but we found that there's several people paying bi-weekly, so
Do
it's
not
paid
do that.
monthly.
Don't only pay bi-weekly if you're ordered to pay bi-weekly, but it is a monthly benefit per statute, so make sure you're paying the PT benefit monthly.
in order to figure out how much you're paying per month, you take the average monthly wage, you multiply it by 8, divide it by 12. That's going to give you the 66 2/3%. And I've done the math for you over here in the little blurb. So in our example, we had the 48,1570 multiplied by 8, divided by 12. We would owe 32,1047 a month.
Forever.
Forever while you choke, and that would be
Until death do us part.
Unless they.
And then if you have a
I'm not
spouse,
gonna get to that. Yeah.
yeah, we'll get into that.
Unless they have a miracle and they get better.
no, not in our world.
No, not in our world. No.
A girl
then-
can dream.
We wanna pay the PTD every month before the last day of the month. You know, good best practices is that you pay it pretty much the same time every month, but make sure that you're paying it monthly.
And we're not Social Security, so if they die during that month, you don't get to take back.
That's right. So
Amen.
pay it at the end of the month.
Pay
And
it
please
into the
check
month.
to make sure that they are alive. I was paying dead people for years at the county.
So you gotta issue the COS. And then
So there's a form for that.
Check that they're alive.
Yeah, you
Make
wanna
sure
do,
you get it back, though. Make sure you get the certificate of survival form back. And if you don't, then
I have one injured worker who just throws a tantrum every time he gets it and screams and yells because we call to find out if he's alive.
And then he
Just-
messes you up.
Cusses you out, and it's like, all right, but at least I know you're alive.
Thanks for calling.
Thanks. Nope, that works. Yes, I am, but we're gonna go now. PTD has an annual COLA increase that you need to be aware of. If you have questions about that, Rosalind is your guru of all gurus on COLA increases. I just did I had a flashback to my, like, whenever you learn percentages in like middle school or high school or whatever it is. So I just did a little bit of flashback math just to remind us what the percentages are. So if you have 100% of something, it's 1.00, 20% 0.2, 2% is 0.02, and 2.3%, which is the key here, is 0.023. So if you want to find out what your new benefit is, you multiply your current PTD rate by 1.023, which gives you the current rate plus a 2.3% increase. The people that are good at math are like, duh. The people that are not good at math, all you heard was the peanuts teacher going blah, 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 blah. So if you don't understand it, you can get help, but also,
you can give me that. They can't hear me.
yeah,
Online.
go for it, Ross.
Oh, I don't have anything to say. I was just.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, she does that, 'cause I'm just checking this right here.
Yeah. But
It
I mean,
says we can't hear.
But if anybody does ever need any help, you can always contact me, email me. This is my baby at DIR, doing PTD COLAs. So if you ever need any help, even with your reimbursements, I'm always here to help.
People might not understand what COLA is. You want to explain what that is?
Cost of living increase, I'm sorry.
Cost of living adjustment.
Adjustment, excuse me. Adjustment.
Yeah, that's because you don't, and what's really amazing is that the PTD, if you got your PTD qualified for it years ago, it's not very much. So at least this kind of helps it keep up. And it's interesting.
And it requires a letter.
It does require a letter every time that it goes up.
Which has to go to the DAR, and it's all reconciled with the DAR.
It is very important that you do this because I know that when January comes around, we're always scrambling to find out make sure we did them all, and if you miss one, it's a real problem, so.
And if you have PTD offsets from the prior PPD that was previously given, you have to do an annual accounting every year and send that to the injured worker. Again, if you need assistance with that, please let me know. I love Excel spreadsheets, and I have plenty of those for all of this stuff, so
Yeah.
just email me or call me.
That's what I do.
And just to put a little 2 cents on that, so what she explained is, you have a PPD, you have a claim, you get a PPD, and then you can't go back to work and you're deemed a permanent total disabled, a PTD. You have to pay back legislation decided that you can't pay it back in lump sum, blah, blah, blah. So it's a 10% that you have to pay back. And if you're paying a perm total and they have a PPD offset, you are also required to, when you send them the letter that says, hey, congratulations, you get a 2.3 increase, there should be a second letter that says, hey, congratulations, we're working down on that PPD. Here's where it started, here's all the years, here's what you still owe. They can write you a check for that if they want, and then you don't do any more offset, or they at least can keep track of whatever. But you have to, every year, if you have a PPD
Yeah.
offset on your perm total, you have to do that.
Actually, that's a good idea.
Yeah, we could do an entire presentation on offsets,
Yes, I love
because
that.
there's so many, and so that's a future topic.
Yeah,
Because we have a ton of offsets out there that don't get handled correctly. Here are just some tips and tricks. They're the same ones we always have. Double and triple check your figures. Get your calculation buddy to double and check. Take it very seriously. Make sure you're using the correct forms. The ones on the website, I've listed it there. That's where I get them. The DIR website will have a really nice section of forms. That's where you get the most up-to-date forms.
Rosalind, am I correct to also say that when you start a COLA, the DIR has to agree to the wage?
For the this is for the reimbursement.
Right.
The reimbursement, yes. If your average monthly wage has not been verified, you need to ensure that it has been verified by DIR before you start submitting your request for COLA reimbursements.
So what happens is we are obligated by legislation to increase because cost of living COLA increase. And as a result of that, we also, as an insurer, are able to apply to the Division of Insurance to get that money all back. But you cannot get that money back if your wage has not been verified by them. And we don't do that. In Arizona, you have your wage verified by the ICA. It's a beautiful thing. But in Nevada, this is the only place that the DIR has to verify your wage.
Again, this is a complicated subject, so I appreciate your patience with it, because it's also not the most scintillating thing in the world to learn, but except for us nerds, we all love the calculations.
Christy, there's no questions online?
Thank God you nerds are
There's no questions online?
Hold on, there are no questions online.
She's looking.
We're looking for online questions.
No online questions.
So,
How do you know? You might, oh, there you go.
I already checked.
We're good.
Oh, all right. See how she
Oh, I thought this was from.
Yep.
Yes.
regarding, the COLA offset
Yeah.
and the reimbursement.
Yep.
Isn't that explained prior to?
What's the question?
The question is, on the COLA increase and the offset from the state, do you have, isn't that only for prior claims that were like prior 19?
Yeah, there is a parameter for the PTD and the death survivor benefits. I'm sorry, I don't have it in my, I don't remember the dates for the PTD, but survivor is 7/1/19, 2019 after that one, or I think before then. I'm sorry, I don't know. We can get that information, I can let you guys know.
I just wanna make
I
sure
knew I
I'm
should have
doing it
wrote
right.
that down, I'm so sorry. I was just thinking about that too when we started. I was like, oh, I didn't write the parameters down, but yeah, there are some parameters for that increase for PTD and death benefits.
Just want to make sure.
Christy, I'll get you that information so you can send it.
Yeah, we'll publish it, we'll send it out in a blast.
Yeah, for sure. Trish, Trudy, Laura, somebody, can I have your help? We have about 22 raffles to give away today. So if you guys want
so you're saying
raffle
there's a chance?
tickets, let me know. They're saying there's a chance.
I literally never win anything.
No, I wanted to meet
Maybe
Gracie.
today's my day.
All right, well, I'm gonna let you pick then.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Oh, wait, hold on, bye, Alex, thank you. Hold on. We're gonna buy tickets.
Oh, I was gonna buy some.
Oh, they're buying tickets.
Yeah, buying raffles there.
Really quick. So, you know how
I know, that's why.
average weekly wage last
Give us just a couple minutes, those online.
he worked 2 hours, so he's worked every day. He had a heart attack, he was off work on
want to do a year, and then you're going to deduct that period because you've got a certified illness, and then that'll give you what you need.
Yeah, of course. There's so many new people.
So good job, you guys. Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, I was even picking up on it, and I don't do it, you know what I mean?
It's a little bit
Well, you guys have to know so
I was
much.
going to buy some, but I didn't do it, so I guess.
You're so funny.
It was a poster. I used to have it in my office.
Go get
I just got them. Oh, I just got them from her.
All right, let's
But
win
I
some.
think, I think Sandy's buying more.
I got them.
Sandy's buying more?
I think you misinterpreted that.
Business is cool.
All right, Trudy, I'm gonna put you on the outside and you're gonna deliver.
I'm gonna deliver.
You're gonna deliver.
Mailman.
All right, you guys ready? We got stuff to give away.
Okay, we got. Okay.
All right, go ahead, Nicole. Grab some.
Now listen, wait a minute. Hold it. Yellow is. Does it matter?
No, it doesn't matter. But
right.
but these two have to be in person because we can't mail out
Right.
these. So,
Well, this one is actually a virtual prize. I can do whatever.
okay,
Does that
okay.
make sense?
And yours just is last three.
So this one will only be a blue one.
Yeah, this one's in
At the
person.
end, yeah.
All right, our first gift card is a, how much?
50.
$50 Ulta gift card from Dr. Colby Young, winning number 216. 216. Yeah. That's her. That's you?
Get them, Ann.
All right, our next one is a $50, which,
I'm just,
Oh,
I'm
just
doing
laying 'em out?
I'm laying them out.
next one is a $50 Target gift card from Church Gibson Marketing, Dr. Hugh Basowitz. Winning person online, Lorraine Paulson.
Yes. Yes.
Our next winner is a $50 Cheesecake Factory from KB Consulting.
Oh, I love that one.
Winning number 268. 268. All right.
Yes, Cody.
All right. Our next is a $50 Olive Garden gift card from Dr. Andre Razadin. Winning number, I think that's Cody, 269.
Yep.
All right.
That's how we do it.
I know.
I haven't won in there.
I know. You deserve it. You deserve it.
Yes, she does.
She works really hard. Okay, our next one is a it's a multiple stores. TJ Maxx Marshalls Home Goods, $25 from Hand Center of Nevada. Winning number 221. 221.
Wait.
Ooh, is that you?
Oh!
221.
Yes.
You better mix
Jazz
those up.
hands.
Yeah, I am. I'm mixing them.
Okay, next one is a $25 Chipotle gift card from Bone and Joint Specialist online, Julie Huey. That's for Dolores.
Walk was excellent last night, Chipotle. Thank you for that.
Yeah. Our next one is a $50 Texas Roadhouse gift card from Dr. Jamie Syshon. Winning number is 983. 983. Oh,
Yeah.
983. I wanted that one. I have never been there.
Our next one is a $25 Buffalo Wild Wings gift card from Hand Center of Nevada. Winning number 222. That's a good number.
Yes.
All right. Our next one is a $50 Amazon gift card from KB Consulting. Winning person online, Jacqueline Bell. Can you put that on my desk? On my,
Yeah.
Here, tape.
I don't need, oh, it's okay.
And then do the one for Dolores. Who's gonna give Dolores first?
Where's Dolores?
Dolores is right there.
Yeah. Our next gift card is a $25 MasterCard gift card
Yeah.
from RVA. Winning number 300. 300.
Ooh.
300.
I don't think that's Ann.
All right, our next gift card is a $50 TJ Maxx gift card. TJ Maxx Marshall's Home Goods from Dr. Muir and Associates. Winning number 294. 294. All right.
Right on.
Our next.
Oh, I'm picking all yours today.
Our next gift card is a $50 Kohl's gift card from KB Consulting, winning number 265. 265. Trish. Okay. Our next one is a $25 gift card from Bone and Joint Specialist to Buffalo Wild Wings. Winning person, Kathy Hurt online.
I hope the weather's good where you are.
I think she's in Florida.
She is.
Oh, lovely.
Or that's Dolores. I have
That's
Dolores.
where I'm saying.
Do they have Smiths in Reno?
They do have Smiths and Reed.
All right. Our next gift card is a $50 Smith's gift card
Okay.
from KB Consulting.
That's
Winning
right.
person, Dusty Marshall. Well, that don't.
Dusty.
Is
Right
she
on.
yeah.
You know, you cannot go wrong with Smith and Wesson.
No, you can't.
I got yours and Dolores.
Is it still Smith?
Okay, our next one is a
$50
$50 Amazon gift card from TBJ Consulting. Winning number 219.
All right.
219.
That's Ann again, I'm
Annie?
sure.
That's Ann. That's Amazon.
It's whoever's before me.
219.
$50 Amazon gift card.
Going once?
219.
Oh, I bet you. Is that Alex? Did Alex give you his ticket, Brady? He took it. All right, that's it. All right.
Head in the water, folks.
This is online, $50 Amazon gift card from TBJ Consulting. Winning number, Cynthia Urasuno. I know I said that wrong.
She's got it.
Okay. Our next one is a $50 Marshall gift card from Trish Gibson Marketing. Winning number 295. 295. Fabiola. Our next is a $50 Amazon gift card. Amazon gift card from Eagle One. Winning number is 298. 298. Let's grab some yellows out of there. What's that? Give me a couple yellows.
Is that right? One more?
All right, our next one, it always happens to be Dolores. Our next one is a $25 In-N-Out Burger gift card. They got In-N-Out there?
They do.
All right.
Come on.
From Hand Center of Nevada, winning persons, Skylar Thornton. Skylar Thornton. Our next gift card is a $50 Amazon gift card from TBJ Consulting. Winning person is Courtney Sheets online. Courtney Sheets. The next one is a $25 Cane's gift card from Bone and Joint Specialist. Winning number 285.
Oh, so close.
285. Bye, Brady.
Sue here.
Hi, Brady.
Sue Hare. Oh,
It's my
Trudy.
tickets.
Oh, it's Trudy.
Yay.
Yay. All right. Next is a
Amazon.
$25 Amazon gift card from Bone and Joint Specialist. Winning person. Sorry, Veronica, you didn't win the purse. Veronica Munoz. Veronica Munoz.
She's not here.
Yeah.
She said, yes, I did.
It dropped in the purse.
This one is a, what kind of gift card?
Is this
Amazon. How
No,
much?
it's a JBL Bluetooth speaker. I'll email it to, I'll send it from Amazon.
Oh, nice.
A JBL Bluetooth speaker from number is 263. 263.
It's me, full again. I'm not winning my
Oh,
own.
sorry.
So,
All right,
yeah, I'm unlucky.
JBL
It's so random.
Bluetooth speaker IMA group, winning number 220. 220.
Uh-oh, wait.
220.
Yes.
Man, she scored.
So I need you to send me your address, and
It's your birthday. It's my
Is
birthday.
that it?
that's it. I'll
So
just
that's
take
the
this one.
winning number.
All right, I'm gonna give away this beautiful Coach purse from Billy Marie. I really want it, so I hope that's my number.
Laura says it's hers.
Craig
Gotta be
P.
Laura
Kenny.
Garney.
It is Craig Kinney and Associates. It is from Billy Marie Morrison. It's so beautiful. And inside there's a wallet too.
Oh,
And she
yes.
always puts
Love
money
a
in it.
matching wallet.
Really?
A $2 bill.
All right.
I didn't get money in my,
$2 bill.
I'm gonna hit her up for it.
A winning number is 2, 2,
Stop. Go ahead.
Oh, no, Ann.
8.
Oh, it's you.
Did she win the first last time?
She won it last time. Pam Boyer won it again. She won the last Coach purse.
That is hilarious.
That was fabulous.
That's crazy. Hey, thank you guys so much. Appreciate you.
Yeah, I will.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
I'm gonna go out to eat.
I have a bunch of super beats to do, but
How are you gonna help you?
I think I'm just gonna,
So it's all you're gonna do the rest of the day?
well, I think we'll start it. Yeah, I got the closures done, so that's good. I just have to,
I know Eric said he was gonna work on like 12 different
yeah, I got his was at least what he needed.
He was worried. He said he was worried because he wanted to make sure he hit his closures.
Well,
He was gonna work on that today.
what I do is I have his on a list, and then a lot of them I pull for him if I find them.
Yeah.
Where should we go?
Well, you know, the Pimps Pay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mike's gonna come too.
Yeah. You want Olive Garden? You want Donna Maria's? You want Donna Maria's?
All right, because I do have to leave by 1:30
We'll be done by
to
then.
get to the NC meeting. Oh, which reminds me, I need to message your husband.
Hey, also make sure Nick sees that. Yes. And I sent him some things to do, and he wasn't busy. We need to check with the assistant. I did a bunch of stuff and she asked me for it. Needs to call him. So we're gonna go to Donna Maria's on 4th Street.
Hey, Mr. Barkley.
Yeah, you bet.
Hey, so, Mike, even Ordinero with Chickenston.
You're with the attorney.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna get that. Nice to meet you guys. I'm sorry for the odd question. How did you guys get prepared to take the exam to become a...
Lunch?
Yeah. The adjuster exam?